Welcome to Reading Dune, a podcast where we read Dune by Frank Herbert and talk about it, except not this time. This time we're doing a movie review for Dune Part 1 by Denis Villeneuve. If you're a Fremen or a first-time reader / watcher, this episode podcast is so for you. My name is Caleb Pauls.
And I'm Evan Diaz.
And together we are going to talk about the new Dune Part 1 movie.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, there we go. We like to start each of these episodes off with an email. You can email us at readingdune@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter there as well. So this one is from a guy named Gray. I think it's a guy. It could be a lady. It could be anybody. Gray, says, Caleb and Evan, I've been enjoying binging your YouTube podcast at work, and I'm currently listening to chapter 46 as I'm typing this email out.
Sick.
With the book coming to a close, I've been wondering if you guys will do any other books via, your podcast. If so, I'd appreciate if you send me the links. All right, Greg, we'll do that just for you. By the way, I'm a total Fremen, having read Dune in early high school. My favorite moment has to be the worm poop. Evan, please don't be embarrassed by this. It was my first thought, too, when reading it for the first time. But
it got me.
But pretty much, I enjoy all the parts of the dialogue between you guys. Caleb, this was such a fabulous idea. You brought such passion and some fabulously terrible voice acting to this experience.
Very true. Very true.
I get comments about the shout out Mapes voice all the time.
It's horrible.
Thank you for roping Evan and I into this. Evan, thank you for sharing your first Dune encounter with us. Watching your reactions and seeing your excitement over the texts reminds me what it was like the first time I read it. I commend you for your courage. It takes courage to try something new and willing to be ridiculous.
Aww.
Thank you for so much laughter and literary thrills. Stay spicy. You know what, Gray? Thank you so much.
Thanks, Gray. That was great.
So we're recording this right now, and it just got announced. So we're obviously going to cover Dune Part 1. But Dune Part 2 also just got announced. They're making the second half, which just warms my little Fremen heart. It's because when this movie was happening, we didn't know if we were going to get a second part.
Right.
It was just going to be the first part. The first part's the boring part. I mean, granted, it's all world building and stuff like that. But I mean, Evan, you've read Dune now. So it's a slow build. And then it's like the top of the roller coaster. Once it hits that apex point, it's just nothing but craziness all the way down.
Right. But it's got me wondering, and I could just totally be making this up. It's got me wondering if it's going to be 2 parts or if it's going to be 3 parts.
Bum, bum, bum.
Because trilogies do well. People like trilogies. The human brain likes the number 3. It's a magic number, like Schoolhouse Rock taught us. 3 is a magic number. So, I don't know.
Yes, it is.
I don't know. It might. That's what I'm thinking right now anyway.
Well, rumor mill, this is all we don't know. And again, hope clouds observation when it comes to this. But the rumor is that we're going to get a part 2, which will finish Dune, and part 3 will be Dune Messiah.
Ooh, interesting.
Which completes Paul's arc. But who knows? Again, complete speculation. We're not here to talk about part 2 and part 3. We're here to talk about part 1. And we're going to try, Evan, to keep this just part 1.
Yeah, we're going to do our very best to keep it spoiler free. I've been able to keep all of my conversations spoiler free. Like the guys that I went to see the movie with don't know what's happening next. They like, one of them hasn't read the book at all, and the other one just like read the first little beginning of it and gave up because he's a loser. And so I'm like, yes, but you'll find out. Like, I'm not going to answer that question, like, so hopefully we don't give anyone any spoilers. So no spoilers, please. We're going to try really hard for no spoilers right now.
I'm going to try really hard, but I've had so many people ask me, Caleb, what does the mouse mean? And I just have to be like, I don't know if I can tell you, should tell you. Oh, moving on. Okay. So I asked I asked Evan to record his first impression coming out of the theater, and let's take a look at it.
Okay, I just got out of the theater and I am in shock. That was possibly the best movie I've ever seen in my life. There were subtle differences, but for the most part, it was spot on with the book. I watched it with my buddies, Arden and Connor. What'd you guys think?
You just gotta see it, man. It's incredible. Wow.
Yeah,
Arden?
great movie. I haven't seen anything Dune related, but I loved it.
He was me at the beginning of the podcast. He had no idea, and he just walked into that movie, it's a game changer. It's bananas. I am supposed to talk about it because Caleb told me to, but I don't have words. I am messed up right now, so that's that. Okay, I love you. Peace, bye.
Okay, I just got out of the movie. What do you think?
It was awesome.
I don't have a lot of thoughts. I need to go do a rewatch with subtitles.
Can't wait to watch it again.
First impressions. I don't think they said Muad'Dib once. 2, the bull metaphor. I love that. Lots of that. Jason Momoa killed it as Duncan. Jessica, awesome. Really felt the tension there. The whole thing felt like a giant roller coaster. I'm gonna go watch it again now. I need more thoughts. I need more time with this.
Wait, what did you
Okay,
say?
I'm done. All right, Sue just had to clarify that she asked, did I enjoy it?
Yeah.
I had to say yes, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Just to clarify, I had a great time. I need to go see it again. Yes, so good. So many things to unpack.
Oh, it was like everything that everyone says about it being visually just like scrumptious is so true. It is so good.
And the soundtrack, and the shots. Oh my gosh. All right, yeah. I need some time with this. Give me some time and I'll formulate some thoughts. So yeah, those were our first initial thoughts. I know the movie ended and I was left kind of speechless. I didn't have anything to say at the moment.
I was in the same boat.
Oh man. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do today. Today we're going to break down the movie, try to answer any questions
Okay.
that people have. So drop your questions in the comments. What do you want to see us more discuss? Maybe try to talk the plot back to forward. Really see if this was an independent story by itself. Look at some symbolism and whatnot. Dune is a very symbolic, philosophical, and even in the book, every line of dialogue, every scene really has purpose, sets something up, I think pays something off. And I think Denis did a great job with the movie in doing that as well.
Yep.
Highly symbolic. Like, I think every scene had some symbolism in it, paying off something else.
Oh yeah, even like subtle things that you're not supposed to notice had symbolism in it. I love that a lot.
And I think, like the book, this will be one of those movies you rewatch and you see more and more and more and more and more every single time.
Yep.
So I think, Evan, how many times have you seen the movie so far now?
2, 3 times.
All right,
I'm on 3.
I'm on 4.
Okay.
I know. I'm sorry. I had to live tweet the whole thing.
Mr. Big Shot over here.
I know people in our comments are like, I've seen it 25 times. And which, you know what? That's a lot. But if it's on HBO Max, I'm okay. Thank you for watching it so many times and getting Dune Part 2 for us.
Oh, yeah.
We are forever in your debt. So this movie in particular is a story about what? Politics, religion, maybe a little bit. Lots of risk, lots of bullfighting metaphors.
Right.
But mostly I think this is a story about Paul and his dreams, and him and Jessica avoiding a trap that's supposed to kill everybody.
Yeah. I mean, that's as basic as you can get. When you're
That's-
saying, what is this movie about? It's about a boy and his mom running away.
Yay! It's a classic mother-son movie. Especially when
She just made it Home Alone.
yes.
Paul Atreides was a young boy on the planet of Arrakis.
So, okay, let's start straight away. Opening scene, right? Before even the Warner Brothers logo pops up, you have deep throat singing on a black screen. You did that.
So sick.
You did that really well.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I think you're actually secretly Sardaukar here.
Yeah.
So, and then the subtitles, it says what? Dreams. I might have to look it up exactly again. I can't believe I don't know it off the top of my
You
head.
don't have that pulled up.
No, I don't. Dreams are messages from the deep. And only once watching on HBO Max did I see with the subtitles did I know that it's Sardaukar on the first watch. Why do you? I have no idea why it's Sardaukar. Evan, do you have an idea why they would start with that? Besides, it's just like in your face. You have no idea what's happening. Welcome to this world.
Right. I mean, with all of the work that they put into the music and the sounds, it kind of makes sense to like, oh, you were watching the previews for like Spider-Man and the new Batman and stuff. You're doing something else now. You know, like
Right.
it really brought you like, whoa, it like woke you up to like, we're doing something different right now. Like we're in a different world. And I can't think of any other fantasy or sci-fi universe where something that something like that happens or like exists, you know. So when you're hit with that throat singing, you're like, whoa, what's going on? And then you're paying attention and you get into it, you know.
Yeah. It and I love how it stayed dark for so long.
Right.
Really pulled you into this, and like that sound kind of drew you in. And as soon as it started, I was in IMAX, and I was like, "Oh, I am so into this right now. Let's take me wherever you're going.
Yeah,
I'm
for sure.
here for it."
Yep.
So it immediately then goes to start with shots of Chani, and she kind of narrates this intro, and I love how we get the Fremen perspective right off the bat.
Right.
Like the Harkonnens like oppress us, they take spice from us, they don't give anything back, they just use and hunt us, and obviously they fight back, and then all of a sudden the Emperor said Harkonnens leave, and they all got on their ships and went away.
Well, no, what she says is all of a sudden they were gone because they're not involved in imperial politics, right? And she just said like, and one day they left.
Yeah.
And the Fremen are like sitting there like, yo, where'd they go? Are we okay? Is it gonna get worse? What's happening?
Is it gonna get worse? That's a good thought.
The book, like you figure out their perspective as you read, right? And like through context clues and like conversations with, you know, when Stilgar shows up, and you know, as you get to know the Fremen, you start realizing like, oh, they don't see it the way that the royal houses have been seeing this, right? So
well, yeah, they're completely outside of what the books would call the Froffer Luchas, right? The systematic system. They're completely outside of it, 100%. And so it's nice to get that perspective. And Chani even says like, and who will our next oppressors be? That is their context for new people coming. Who's just going to come take the spice and leave, not give anything in return?
Right.
Which I was like, oh man, so good. And I love how that scene was also set up almost like a dream sequence.
Yeah.
For Paul, because in the beginning, Paul's like, I have these dreams of this girl, and it happens. You see it once, but in this, you really see that drawn out. That picture keeps popping up again. He's ruminating over and over and over again. Paul is like trying to understand, what do his dreams mean.
Right. One thing about Chani's, that opening scene with Chani, is it could have very easily felt like a knockoff of Galadriel's speech at the beginning of Fellowship.
Mm-hmm.
They could have very easily done that, but they didn't. You know, like it didn't feel like that. It felt like something new. Like I was, as somebody who's watched Fellowship probably like 300 times,
At
I
least.
didn't even think about that until later, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that was like a big pitfall right off the bat that they like avoided completely. So kudos. You guys are good at making movies.
Fantastic. So like you see Paul waking up, and then you see the glow globe come up, which I loved. That was
Right.
so I was like, how that worked. I was like, oh, I never would have. I knew it was a floating globe, but that's really, really cool.
Right. I geeked out about that, and like it was like such a minor detail. I was like, glow globe. Oh,
Yeah.
so cool.
So the year pops up, year 10191, and I just want to preface this. They don't say on here, but that's AG, which stands for after guild. So it's after it's not AD. It's not like 10,000 years in our future. It's after all the stuff that the guild finds the spice and is able to travel across space and time in order to go from planet to planet. And this the 10,000 year of that.
Gotcha.
So I just wanted to clarify real fast on that point because that was not made in the movie.
Right. That's good to know. That's very good to know.
Because this is like distant science fiction.
Like our universe, but super duper far in the future.
Yeah, super duper. Earth is gone at this point. It's
Ooh.
it's okay. I won't get there. Spoilers. Okay, so Evan's only read the first book, so I can only go so far when I talk about. So next is you get. I love this scene. The scene is not in the book, but it's incredible because it sets up so much of the dynamic between Paul and Jessica. Is Paul and Jessica at the breakfast table?
Yeah. That was
So-
cool. It was one of those good, like, oh, this is a 15-year-old boy dealing with his like the pressure from his mom, you know, like it made that feeling, which shows up in the book. Made it like pretty
100%.
obvious.
Mom, I just woke up. Like, yes. And then you get to see what the voice is right away and like how the Bene Gesserit use it and what training looks like. And like, you can kind of see all that and get that right off the bat, which I just, you need to know that as things can move forward.
I
During
was like on the edge of my seat when she said that. She's like, make me give you the water. I was like, he's gonna do it. What's it gonna sound like? Freaking out.
yeah, what is the voice going to sound like?
Right.
And we'll get to that when we get to that scene.
Okay.
Okay. So then he tries to do the voice, and you like everything goes quiet. You hear the wind chimes tinkling, and then for me, you get the shot of the painting of the old Duke and like the statue figurine of the Duke in the bull in the arena.
Yeah, the matador.
So it's our first look at this bull symbolism. Like, this is how Grandpa died. Grandpa died by getting into the ring one too many times, and the bull got it. Yeah. It's this the symbolism of entering the arena, risk all over again.
Right.
So he gives them, he does the thing, and then I loved this too. So he's the exposition here, because there's so much to set up, and they did it so tastefully. They did it in his lessons, the recordings is projecting onto the wall, and you learn about sandstorms, and you see him studying like the Fremen while popping up the images. He's recalling the images of his dreams of what is this. Johnny's face pops up again. He's trying to understand. We learn about what spice is, right? And how the Fremen, they talk about for the Fremen, spice is this sacred hallucinogen, but spice is also the thing that makes interstellar travel possible. And without the spice, it would never happen.
Right.
And so spice is used by the guild navigators to make sure this happens, which makes sure the economy runs. And that's what it is. So we have a question here from M. Hampton. She says, or Hampton says. Sorry, I shouldn't have assumed her pronouns. I apologize. Question: exactly how does the spice work with space?
Mhm.
Evan, you want to give this a shot? How does the spice work with space?
Well, you see, when the spice is extracted from the coaxial coagulator, I don't have no idea. I have no answer to that at all.
Okay, so let me see. I don't know a full answer here because it's just kind of alluded to. I can go deeper into this. But so the guild navigators kind of bathe, maybe breathe, live, are
They just
in little.
live in spice.
They live in the spice, and you see the guild navigators. They have the orange helmets on. Those are filled with spice gas. And what the spice does is, after it kind of mutates them after living in it for so long, that the spice is a hallucinogen in that you can do extra calculations with it. So they're seeing all possible things and how to make the jumps, how to go from planet to planet. And so they find the safest travel between the stars, do all the probabilities, and then do that.
Right.
It's kind of like Paul's prescience on steroids.
Is it also like the actual fuel to the mechanism of like the freighters, or is it just for the navigators?
I believe it's just for the navigators to make it work. Like otherwise it's just a calculation in a certain engine that does it. The Holtzman generator, which is technically the same engine that runs your shields.
Okay.
And how does that work? But yes, that's a great question. Thank you so much. And it leads into the next part because we see, right? Because Paul was like, "Why do I have to get dressed so early?" And then Jessica's like, "Ceremony." He was like, "But why? It's already been decided." And she's like, "Ceremony."
Yeah.
Sorry about it, bud. This is just how things work around here. So they get all dressed up, and the guild ship comes down, and it's got the Herald of the Change who does this thing. We see the guild navigators.
Right.
And
They look like astronaut wizards.
Yes.
Spooky looking.
Yeah, you can't see their faces at all. And the Herald Change says stuff, and then you see there's also a Bene Gesserit with him to like witness what's about to happen.
Yeah.
Which I thought was creepy because the Bene Gesserit, like Reverend Mother or whatever she was, just staring at Jessica, and Jessica was like, "Oh, crap! Oh no, I'm in trouble." And they're all like, and she's like, and she knows exactly it's about Paul, and Paul's like, "What's happening?
Right.
And why is this woman here?"
That was the Reverend Mother that we see later, right?
I think no, it's somebody else.
It's somebody else.
Yeah,
I couldn't tell. Also, like the Reverend Mother, her name, she had that like thing on her face, and it's kind of hard to tell what her face looked like. So I didn't know if it was the same lady
or her facial expressions.
Right.
Things.
Right.
So the Duke goes down, and you see the signet ring, and he like looks at Paul like, "Are you sure this is what we should be doing?" Paul's like, "Yeah." Gurney's like, "You sure we're doing this?"
No one is sure of anything.
Nobody is sure, but we're gonna, the Atreides are loyal. They're gonna do that, and so he does it, and he seals it, and he seals his fate forever by doing that, by saying yes to all of this.
And he gives a really good speech.
Yes, he does. I love that speech.
It was very Atreides, very Duke Leto, like spot on.
We know who the Atreides are by this, right? They're loyal. They say yes.
Yeah.
You can trust them, even in the midst of all the craziness.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that Paul is not talking to his mom about his dreams. I probably said it once, like, "Hey, Mom, I've been having some weird dreams." And his mom's like, "Wait, what? What weird dreams?" And probably he said it 2 or 3 times. He was like, "Actually, I'm going to stop telling Mom about these dreams."
Right.
Because it's always going to be one girl, which is Kind of weird. I don't want to talk to my mom about this. So, who's the other one person you would talk to?
Duncan Idaho.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like if you're a 15-year-old boy and Jason Momoa is like your
Part
buddy,
of your life. Yeah.
yeah, you're like, I'm gonna talk to him about all my weird man stuff. But he's 15. He's still going through that puberty stage.
Right.
So
Right.
Jason Momoa is the guy I'm gonna talk to. So Duncan comes in and Paul's like, hey, I gotta tell you about this, and I've seen you. And so we start to see some of that prescient ability. So Paul's dreams, this is not quite explained in the movie, but he can see the future, parts of the future, possible futures, because time is not one linear line. There's lots of other valleys and shadows of things that could happen.
Right. And that's not like a spoiler necessarily. They just didn't explain that, but
Right.
you could have understood it from the context clues of like the visions he was having versus the stuff that happens. Like they tried to like make it pretty obvious. So
Which I think is good. And okay, if we're going to talk about the prescience, we might as well do it now. It pops up a lot. But like, maybe you can help me here, Evan.
Okay.
There was a yellow tint to some of them, and some of them that like when we see Duncan fallen in battle with like that beetle right there, that was not tinted yellow. Do you think there's a difference between it? Because I'm trying to understand how this prescience works, as Paul is also trying to understand how it works.
Tinted yellow, you mean like film editing wise?
Yeah, there's a yellow tint to it. Like when you see Chani for the first time, she's got this tint of yellow, and there's other shots that are like not tinted at all. And
I don't know about that.
It just makes me think of that. Somebody sent us an email one time about how when you see the word yellow in the book, usually something bad's about to happen. It's a warning of something. And I just thought that'd be it's a cool visual cue of what it is. Because there's so many times it's yellow, it's like weird stuff. And okay, yeah, it's just he gets stabbed.
I'm gonna have to rewatch it and look for that. That's a really good point, because that does happen in the book.
So yeah, because there are very sharp images. They're like, ooh, this is happening.
Yeah.
Somebody left a comment that said, all the sharp visions come to pass, the blurry ones change.
Interesting.
So,
like that.
I mean, it's fun as an audience member to be like, I'm trying to figure out how the prescience work, just as Paul is. We're on the same journey together. We're trying to see the future as we see the past, but yeah, we're trying to all figure that out. But so he tells Duncan all these things. You see, following him battle, and Duncan has this great speech of like, dreams make good stories, but everything important happens when we're awake, because that's when we make things happen.
Casual good juice coming from
Duncan.
Yeah,
and then he immediately makes a joke, like, "Look at you, put on some muscle." Like, no, and then he walks away.
I'm Jason Momoa, skinny boy.
So, all right. So the next scene we get, which I think is super important for the character development of both Duke Leto and Paul, is the graves of the forefathers, right? They're in this cemetery. All of these old Atreides dukes are there. And of course, Duke Leto is there to say goodbye to his own father. And then Paul at this time was like, I want to go with Duncan. I've asked him already. He told me no. And then, of course, Duke Leto's like, no way. Nuh-uh.
Right. Nah, bro.
And then, of course, Paul was like, I've trained forever for this. I want to take some risks. And he's like, again, Dad's like, no way. We're going to face political danger. Like, no way.
Nope.
And then Paul's like, but grandfather fought bulls for sport. And then, of course, the Duke Leto's like, and look where that got him. Like, good job, Paul. Way to point out the obvious.
Shut up.
But then the Duke Leto starts talking about how on Arrakis they need to cultivate desert power, right? They've had air and sea here on Caladan, but there they need the desert power, which I think he means people, right? He's always talking about people. People are the wealth of the Atreides. Harkonnens may want spice, right? They may want fear to get loyalty. But the Atreides are all about people, which is why the Emperor is so scared of them, because if so many people like the Atreides, then, it's going to be bad news for him.
Right. Imagine that. You're like a good person and you treat people with dignity and people like it?
And people follow you?
What?
What?
Interesting. Never thought of that.
And so then we get sorry, we user just said, Dad, you never let me do anything fun.
That's amazing.
Which is totally Paul's attitude right there.
Yeah.
Um,
One thing about this scene. This scene
Yeah.
is where like I suddenly realized that almost every shot so far in Caladan has water in it.
mhm.
So he's like touching the grave and the little like grooves on the markings of the grave are all like full of water and moss. And like, then I started thinking back to like, there was like the ocean in several shots, they're past me the water. There's like all water in almost every shot that's in Caladan. And like, they're so obviously doing that on purpose to be like, look at all this water, look at all this water. You're not seeing it, but look at all this water. There's so much water. There's so much water. And now we're on Arrakis and there's water is nowhere, It was so smart. That's one of those subtle things that they did in the movie to like get your brain going.
So then Paul was like, but what if I'm not the next heir of the Atreides? You know what I mean? What if I'm not this? And I love this speech from Oscar Isaac. Does a great job, by the way.
Yeah.
And the best thing about it is he's only like 15 years older than Timothy Chalamet at this point, but he like really puts on dad mode, and I love it because he says like, I told my father I didn't want the signet ring, right? The power either. He wanted to be a pilot, which was a great ad, which is why, he flies everything all the time. That's what he wanted to do. But he says, a great man doesn't choose to lead, right? He's called to it. And the Atreides, the call is yes. They are loyal. And I love that. So he says that whole speech. He's like, I found my way. Maybe one day you'll find yours. Like, just let the path before you happen, and I'm sure it'll be fine. Right. And then I love this last moment, which is like total pressure. But you get the wide shot of them with all the graves. And Duke Leto goes, in their memory, give it a try. Like, You've only got 35 generations of people above you who have done it. Like, maybe you can try.
Yeah. You left out the most like tear-jerking line of that whole thing, which was, and even if you're not the future of House Atreides, you'll always be the one thing I ever needed you to be. My son.
Oh! God.
Dad feels. Weeping. I was just weeping. It's fine.
So good. So good. Oh my gosh. And I think it's that interaction that just seals the deal. Like, these are good people. These are good people who love each other well, and they're being tossed into this hellhole. And I feel bad for him at this point.
Right. Oh, okay.
All right. So next we get the training room scene, right? And you get this phrase pops up a lot, which is because Paul is training, and then Gurney walks in. He's like, "Don't have your back to the door." And Paul says, like, "I could recognize you by your footsteps." And then he always calls Gurney old man. So that old man, I could tell you by your footsteps, old man,
right,
pops up a lot. That's that symbolism, that recurring thing that that's going to draw you through the story, which I think is beautiful. And you get sassy Paul here that says, like, I've had quite a day, Gurney. We had a ceremony. I had a heart-to-heart with my dad. I've had a long day. Maybe you could just sing to us instead. That'd be great.
Give us a song.
Come on, do what you're good for. And at that, he like throws a knife at him.
Right.
And they start fighting, right? And it's this we learn how the shields work and how the slow blade penetrates the shield, and you should fight when the necessity arises.
Right.
Like
The way
the
they did-
mood.
The way they did the shield too, so good. You know, it could have been real corny, but they did such a good job. And like the red when it like is penetrated, I didn't even think about, like, I would have never imagined that, but it was so good. Just like, you know, when someone's shield has been penetrated because it like glows red and everything else is like blue when it gets hit.
Which is so good, and it's
Spot
much
on.
better than the 1984 one, which Evan, you've not seen yet because you wanted this to
No.
be your first immersion into the Dune universe. But well, watch that, and you'll see how good those shields are.
Okay.
Okay. So Gurney's like, you don't understand Harkonnens. Like, they're brutal. They're not even human. Right? They're like, you need to be on your guard all the time. And I really wish we got Gurney backstory here a
Right.
little bit. I needed 2 more lines, which is like, I was in their slave pits before your dad rescued me. I know how bad they are. They killed my sister. Like, I need that a little bit more. So, but otherwise, I mean, if you don't know that, you're like, okay, get it. They're bad guys.
Right.
But
Yeah. They also, they didn't, Gurney wasn't quite as Gurney as he was in the book. Does that make sense? Like, Gurney was much more like funny and humorous and like just lighthearted at times in the book, right? Like, and you know, the Gurney we got was very serious. He even had that moment of like, Leto's like, smile, Gurney. He's like, I am smiling. But like, he would have been smiling, you know, like Gurney from the book would have been smiling.
I was about to say something, but it's for part 2, so I'm just gonna leave. I'm gonna let it be.
Yeah, stop.
Sorry, my bad.
Don't.
My bad. I went there talking about the Gurney character, and I can't do it. So we get that. We understand you got to fight whenever the necessity arises. This is, I think, 100% foreshadowing for the Jameis fight. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to do this. I don't want to kill a man, but like, it kind of the movie bookends itself with like, you fight because you have to, and then it's you kill because you have to.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't like that, but I understand it.
Yeah.
So next we get, and this is what everyone wants to know, Evan, from you. We get to the worst planet in the entire Imperium, Giddy Prime. So
Awful.
we see Raban come up, and he's like telling, and I don't know what is happening in this scene at all. It's beautiful, dark, and which is
beautiful. It's beautiful. It's well made.
The shots are visually stunning. The way they
Right,
use
yeah.
shadows and light, of course, but disgusting because it's the Harkonnens.
Ugh.
So Raban comes up to the Baron, and he's like, everything's done. Like, and then he gives
The
like,
last
yeah.
ship is off Arrakis. Yeah.
And then we see Piter just sitting there in the corner doing his thing, being a Mentat. And now it's, I guess we could talk about what a Mentat is. A Mentat would be a human computer. So after, the guild learned their thing, and they learned how to fold space and time to move back and forth. But before that, they found spice, they used machines to do that. Because Avi, but then the machines and the AI tried to take over humanity and rule everybody. So there's now this rule that there's no more machines anymore, no more thinking machines. So everything is done via humans. So Mentats are super assassined human computers.
Yeah.
And so when their eyes roll up like that, they're doing computations. So
Right.
Piter's in the corner just computating for fun.
Right. That was the only explanation we got, was when Leto asks Thufir Hawat, which
Right.
we've been mispronouncing this whole time.
Yes, I'm sorry for mispronouncing everything.
Well, that's another conversation, our mispronunciation. He goes, how much did they, pay for all of this, and Thufir Hawat's eyeballs go like in the back of his head, and he's like, blah blah blah, blah. Like he says like a ridiculous
21
price.
gigawatts, right?
Right. And that's the only explanation of what a mentat is, really. Like there was no, like, mentats are an important thing that you should know what they are and what they do, but they kind of left it out of the movie. It would have been too much to explain, you know, in the movie, but who knows? Maybe in a extended edition, there's a scene that we don't get. In
Yeah,
theaters.
maybe in the HBO TV show with the Bene Gesserit they show that. But I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, so now we get to see dun dun dun. We get to see the Baron for the first time, and he's sitting naked in like
In a-
the shower thing.
It's like a sauna shower situation, just wet and gross.
And- so okay, so I saw this on Twitter that Stellan Skarsgård loved being the Baron, and he loved being naked being the Baron. He thought the Baron should do more scenes naked,
Oh, great.
which
That's what we want.
I think is great. Diane in the comments says they really nailed the Baron's evil gross baby vibes. And yeah, he's just a
Definitely.
big baby just walking around naked,
Yeah.
being all insidious and whatnot. It's gross. But right, so Raban's yelling at him, "Why would the Emperor do this to us?" And
Mhm.
and this is probably my favorite line that maybe in the whole movie comes from the Baron, but he says, "Win is a gift, not a gift."
No,
Win-
no. What he said was, "When is a gift, not a gift." That's what he said. Don't.
Okay, you're right. You're right.
Disgusting.
You nailed it. I'm gonna let you do all the voice acting from here on out because you're
Thank
killing
you.
it.
I know. I'm so good at this. Okay.
This podcast is gonna take a long time. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
We can speed it up. We can speed it up if we need
let's-
to.
Yeah, let's speed it up a little bit. So, win is a gift, not a gift. This is, I think it's perfect. There's a few lines. The book is so philosophical and deep and gives you so much good juice.
Mhm.
And there's a bunch of it in the movie, but this is one
It's
of
not
those
as
lines.
easy to catch in the movie.
Yes.
Like in the book, you read the line, you're like, "What? That applies to life." You know, in the book, it's just kind of like, "Oh, that was deep." You know, like that
Right.
goes over your head a little bit more.
All right. So now let's just skip to the Gom Jabbar scene. So Jessica shows up trembling, waiting for the Bene Gesserit, her sisterhood, to come down. And hey, do you want to, Evan? You want to explain what the Bene Gesserit are?
The Bene Gesserit are like the witch ladies that are low key political what's the word? They're like really tricky lobbyists. Space nuns. Somebody in the comments just said space nuns. Exactly. They're like witchy space nuns that mess with politics of the Imperium. And
Yeah. How do they mess with the politics?
so they explain it in the movie like pretty outright. You know, they spent, you know, Bene Gesserit have been around for thousands of years, and they would very purposefully like breed the royal houses, like marry different people in the royal houses, or just like create
about-
babies
about-
from, right?
Yeah. They'd create. Yeah. They use them to create babies to get the bloodlines right.
Right. With the objective of creating this Kwisatz Haderach, which is how they said it, and I
You did
loved
great.
it. We said it all kinds of wrong, but again, sorry everyone that's followed us this long. That was the objective, and so that in doing that, they kind of control who's in power, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like for the most part, because it's like, oh, if they marry this person, then this person becomes this of this house, and this, you know, like that kind of
Right. They
moving the puzzle pieces of the Imperium.
Exactly. So Paul's having a dream about his dream girlfriend. And she says, I love this. It's so subtle. So Jessica comes up to him and she's just so nervous about this interaction. What's about to happen is not going to be fun. And she probably might lose him here. Is And so he's like, and so a dream trying to Paul, and then you hear Jessica go, Paul. And I was like, oh, that was good. That was clever. What's real and what's not? And I love this because this is, chapter 1 in the book pretty much. I love how it takes 20 minutes to get to chapter 1. Big fan of that. And you just needed to world build a lot more
Right.
for a movie of this scale. So she sets out his clothes, which is just like the book says. I think we made fun of him for that. But I think it was really good. Like, get up. It's the middle of the night. You need to come get dressed. And he's like, Mom, what is this? What's happening? And Jessica's like, well, she needs to talk about your dreams. And he's like, how does she know about my dreams? And Jessica gives him this look like, I told her, what do you expect?
I have to, Paul. I am a Bene Gesserit. I have to tell her. It's like,
duh.
Mom, no.
And this is our first introduction also to Yui, which I think needs more introduction. You need to introduce this character right off the bat. And he also he introduces just how maybe evil the Bene Gesserit are. Like, they do their own thing. They are not subject to anybody.
Right.
No disrespect, of course, to the Lady Jessica, right? He says that. And then you get the shot of the bull's head, which pops up every time there's about to be a dangerous scenario. It says, like, entering the arena, you get the risk of dying at this point, which, I loved how many times they showed the bull's head. So then Jessica's like, remember your training, which I thought used the hand signals, the Atreides hand signals, beautifully.
Oh, yeah. Super subtle, like, really cool. And she's really the only one that does it in the movie.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so. Probably. I don't know. Yeah. So the only thing that's going to get Paul past his interaction is his Bene Gesserit training that his mom has been teaching them secretly. Probably. Probably shouldn't have taught him anything, but here we go. And this is where the eerie voices start in his head. Like, it's something is happening. Who are you? And then the voice happens, right? It like pulls him forward. And I love how the voice works. It sounds like 1,000 different voices at once. The bass is really low. And you, almost an audience member, feel pulled forward in it. And I just want to say thank you to the sound editors on this.
Right.
You did a great job.
Ooh, question.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
We're not really allowed to talk about why it sounds like a bunch of voices, right? That's a spoiler, isn't it?
I think that's a spoiler.
Okay.
Audience members, do you think it's a spoiler? Can we talk about that?
Let us know in the comments.
Yeah. Thank you. Because you're right. Totally. I get it. It sounds like there's 1,000 different voices talking back there and with the unison. Okay, somebody says it's yes. We can't say anything. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, everyone. There's an explanation, though. Be excited.
Someone probably already has talked about it on some podcast. So yeah, definitely a spoiler. We can't go for it. But part 2 is going to be incredible. All right, so we have the Gom Jabbar scene. Which
so good.
Oh my gosh,
man!
Can I just give a round of applause to Timothée Chalamet at this point? And his acting is incredible.
Yeah, he did such a good job.
Now, when we get the litany against fear, what did you think about this, Evan? I have thoughts.
Oh, I thought it was a beautiful, beautiful moment because Jessica was in the book. I feel like this is maybe the only time she was like externally freaking out. In the book, Jessica is very composed at all times, and they didn't really do that in the movie very well.
Right.
And so she's freaking out. Paul is like, puts his hand in the box. The pain starts and he's freaking out. And the Reverend Mother is like, silence. And she starts reciting the litany, and then with each line from the litany, it moves back to Paul.
Mm.
And as it progresses, Paul gets more and more control over himself. So he's obviously reciting the litany in his mind as remember your training, right? That was his
Mhm.
training. When that kind of thing happens, you do the litany and you will get through whatever is going on. So like by the time she finishes it, he has that moment where he like looks up at her, at
Ah.
the Reverend Mother, and the Reverend Mother is like, oh God, like, oh, I'm uncomfortable. You know, for the first time since we've seen her, she's like, what do I do? You know, so good. That one scene was just like incredible.
So we have a comment here in the YouTube comments that says it was one of the first scenes they filmed with Chalamet, and Denise said he started dancing behind the camera when he saw Paul's complete transformation.
Yes.
Which, oh my, it's so beautiful. When you see that, you're like, this is it. This is it. This is
Right.
always the Paul. This is the scene. He looks up and he's completely conquered everything, and his eyes are just wide
Right.
and just going through this pain. And you see the Reverend Mother like, holy crap, that was a lot.
Oh no. Yeah, every little thing that he did in every little detail of his acting was just so good. Like at the very beginning when it just first starts hurting, he goes like, ooh,
Ooh.
you know, like as if you're like getting a tattoo for the first time and it's like,
Yes.
oh, that hurts. But then like the pain gets worse and worse and worse. Yeah, it was really cool.
So this is so this is also an important plot point because this is the first time his visions happen while he's awake.
Mm.
The pain activated something in him, inside of him, in his genes and bloodline. He was having visions in the dream, and then with the pain activated point, and now they've started happening in real life. And
Yeah.
the Duke Leto had said something like that, like ever since the Reverend Mother you brought him before that, he's been off, he's been weird. That's because the prescience has now started when he's awake, and it's going to continue to grow all the way through Paul's arc, which is going to be insane.
Yeah, super cool.
So then it's funny how after that happens, you see the question the Reverend Mother says, like, you often dream things that happen just as you dream them. And Paul's like, not exactly. Right. And she's almost irritated at this point. Like, gosh, he could have been the one, but his sight isn't activated yet, and y'all are about to die. So thanks a
Right.
lot for ruining this. Here's an extra 1,000 years we had to throw away.
But it's low key like she's missing something. I don't want to say too much. I don't want to spoil that, but like she is misunderstanding what's going on, not the other way around. Right?
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
So yes, and then as the Reverend Mother is leaving, we get the exposition on what the Bene Gesserit are and how they work, and like
Right.
he wields our power, but there's so much potential here wasted on a male, which that's so good. And we get the orders for Jessica to only have daughters, but look where we are now. In your pride, you thought you could produce that Kwisatz Haderach. If he is the one, he has a long way to go. And then they say, but their plans are measured in centuries, the Bene Gesserit are, and they have other prospects.
Right.
Bum, bum, bum. I don't know what's going to happen with that because we can't say anything.
Moving
on.
Wait. That
No.
scene was super foggy, and that was the
Yes.
water represented in that scene. Like,
Let's go.
Jessica's hair is wet. Paul's hair is wet. They're standing in thick fog. It was like one of the last water moments on Caladan. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yes. And then we get the Missionaria Protectiva, right? We get that inkling, like Mahayam says, on Arrakis, we've done all we can for you. The path has been laid. Let's hope he doesn't squander it.
Right. But she doesn't say what she says in the book, which is for the father, nothing.
I was waiting for that line too. It didn't
That
happen.
that might have made it. Oh, Someone said they love us. Love you too. That would have maybe been a little too obvious for a movie setting to like
Strictly
it.
say that outright. Yeah.
Yeah, to just call it right off the bat. So I get it, but also I was looking for it. But anyway.
All right. So then Jessica turns around. They're gone. And I love this. And I can't tell you why because of spoilers. I'm doing my best here. You see Paul in an all gray fog, just standing there, resolute. In the nothingness, there he is, that fixed point. And I love that. He asks who the Kesbark Haderach is, and it's somebody who can, powerful enough to bridge space and time, past and future. That's all I'm going to say there. And he's there to bring.
Just say what they say in the movie. Just use the lines from the movie.
I'm literally looking at the script right now. And this is the only thing we get, right? In the book, it's a lot of there's plans within plans, and everyone has a plan. And this is where Paul goes, so everything's part of a plan. Thanks.
Yep. That's it, bud. Sorry.
Don't you? And yeah, it's nice to feel unique, but also unique to the point of you are going to be used by everybody. Like your only point is to be used. That's just not fun.
Sorry.
Now it's time to go to Arrakis. So we get another shot of the bull's head. We're
Getting
backing packed up in the crate. We got Paul's last sunset, and then going to Arrakis, changing houses.
The last shot of Paul on Caladan is him scooping up a handful of water.
Oh,
right?
Yep.
And then later we see him scooping up a handful of sand.
Yep.
It's like beautiful symbolism that must be pointed out, I think.
There is so much symbolism. It would take 4 hours for us to just talk about how every scene is symbolic.
Oh, yeah.
We might just take that 4 hours anyway, but still. So now you have the ships are coming down, and it's all of this ceremony again, this procession.
Yeah.
The Duke is here. So much so, and I love this too, because in this, like Jessica looks up at the Duke looks back down. They hold hands, like, I'm here with you, babe. I know this is really stupid, but we're doing it together.
I got you, boo-boo.
Hey,
do this, baby. You know,
hey, baby. We also get a shot of the OC Bible here, which is not ever talked about, but the OC Bible, I don't know. Listen to the podcast. I don't know what episode it is, but we dive deep into what the OC Bible is. Yeah. Gurney quotes it, which is just nice. And then everyone's favorite character on the internet, the bagpipe guy, just shows up.
My reaction to the bagpipes, like many comments about
the bagpipe guy.
Right. The dude comes out and he starts playing bagpipes, and I was like, oh, that's corny. But then there's like 50 of them, and all of a sudden, I don't know how Dune made bagpipes epic, but they did.
Make bagpipes great again. Let's go. They did it. And he did it.
Killed it.
French Canadian brought back this Scottish folklore. Here we go. And now we get Mr. 19 comments that when he heard the bagpipes, he had a deeper awakening than Paul's spice awakening. I mean, come on. The space bagpipes are where it's at.
Yeah. Very good. Very good.
Right after that, we see the Fremen all around, and we learned that this was a Harkonnen custom that the Fremen are supposed to gather, and they're watching. The Fremen are watching Paul and Jessica exit this giant, massive spaceship, which is so awesome. Mm-hmm. And they're screaming, Lizan El Gaib, Lizan El Gaib. They're seeing the prophetic signs in front of them that, like, the thing they have hoped for hundreds of years is now walking out in front of them.
Right.
the mother and the son, the off-worlders, the voice of the outer world. And I'm just like, ooh, we have that a little bit of religious prophecy starting. Thank you, Bene Gesserit, for setting all of that up. So basically, for those of you who have not read the books or listened to the podcast, you should listen to the podcast. We go chapter by chapter, an hour in. I'm doing a pitch here. We do chapter by chapter for all of Dune. We just read it with you. And so you should read it, and then you should listen to the podcast. Okay, so the Bene Gesserit, they have the Missionary Protectiva. There are like levels of Bene Gesserit, and one of the lower levels, the ones who don't get selected for the breeding process, get sent out to be quote unquote missionary teachers and religious builders of the indigenous on the planets. So the Bene Gesserit have planted this legend there that's probably been fed for hundreds of thousands of years, if not. As they Fremen go planet to planet, that's another story. But all the Fremen are looking for their savior to help them, this voice from the outer world who will be the offspring of a Bene Gesserit. So, I mean, boom, that's Razan Al Gaib. And I love how they get into the Thopter, and Paul's looking at Jessica like, hey, Mom, what are they doing? And she's like, oh, they're doing this thing. And I love how he questions the Bene Gesserit ethics right away. Like, they're only doing that because you implanted this legend. Right. Like, is that right for them to do? And I love he just questions that right away. Razan Al Gaib! And then we get like the coolest part, I think, in the whole movie, which is the Ornithopters.
Yes, seeing them work with the
dragonfly wings.
They like even built in an instant replay if you missed how the first set of wings was moving. Did you see that? Did you notice that? Like, the one they're in is like there's another one right past the wings, and like the wings start up and they're going so fast that you can see through them and see the other ones start up. So it's like, oh, and that's how they work. I was picturing much more like flexible, like kind of malleable little wings, but that makes so much more sense.
If you're watching right now on YouTube, Evan just made the best hand movements I've ever seen to show like what flying looks like.
Like a caca, like a waka, like angels in the outfield.
Beautiful. 100%. Angels. So they get in the Thopters from the landing field, and they have to fly to the city of Arakeen, which is the imperial city on the planet. And they go over it, and they get in, and it's, nice and dirty. Just gross. And it's probably all covered because you don't want the sand getting in, and sand's just everywhere.
It's definitely different than what I expected. I was expecting like Agrabah.
I was thinking that too.
Yeah, like Agrabah from Aladdin, but it was much more spacey. You know what I mean? Like much more
I mean, I'm no architect major, but it felt more like a ziggurat from the Babylonian era.
Okay.
Or
You're
like
not an architect?
I'm not.
We use the word ziggurat. What?
Or like I think about the Indian mounds in America. They find like in Mississippi in some places. It's like they're built on top of each other. So it's old and new at the same time. That's just random thought in my head. So now we get the Duke and Gurney staring out at the moons, which gotta love the moons, and they're just saying how quiet it is and it's gross. And Duke asks Gurney, like, hey, so what do the men say? And then Gurney says, to shower, you scrub your ass with sand, my lord. Which, so good. And we get that whole scene.
My lord.
So we learned that Arrakis is different than probably Caladan, where you do everything at night, not in the day, because in the day it kills you. Yeah. So you have to close everything off, keep all the moisture in. It's completely different. The next scene we get is the shout out Mapes scene.
Oh, so good. I was also freaking out when that scene came on. I was like, oh, here she comes. Abuelita is coming.
So they're doing this thing, and Jessica's trying to be nice. Like, oh, that's Jacobsa. That's so cool. You must be Fremen. Like, trying to be cool. And then he's also, you also have a weapon. and then things get tense again.
Right.
This movie goes tense, 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 drops off, calm, tense, 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 drops off, calm. And even the music does that, which I think is brilliant.
Right.
Gives the audience a little time to breathe. But we see a crysknife, and she's like, "Do you know what this is?" And we go much deeper into the books of what happens here. But
Yeah.
I love that we get this moment because it's like another thing. Like Jessica doesn't know what to say. She's going to say the maker of death, but instead it's just maker. And Shadow Mape freaks out like, "Oh my gosh, prophecy is coming true. It's coming true all in front of us." And Jessica's like, "Yep, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Keep it calm. Keep it calm. The way has been prepared." And then we get this idea, like we see that, and then we get the shot of all of the Fremen pilgrims, which I can't say anything about Fremen pilgrims yet. And not even to you, Evan, I can't say anything about Fremen pilgrims.
Oh no.
So, but I love how we get that music here. It's like Bene Gesserit. Like this has been implanted religion here. And they're all worshiping these plants, which I think is a cool callback to the Weirding room and the dinner scene where they're like, this is the possibility of the future.
Right.
This thing we're holding on to, that one day they'll come, which I thought was really cool. And I love how the first person that Paul talks to is the gardener.
Right.
Nothing screams Atreides sincerity like talking to the regular janitor dude.
Right.
"Oh, what's your job?" "That's cool. Nice."
And he's like, "Why are you talking to me? You're not supposed to be out here. It's daytime. Go away.
Go
You can be here."
Why are you not wearing more protection is what I wanted to know. Like you're out there in the hot sun. Like you should probably do something about that. But I love that we get the palm tree metaphor here.
And they explain it, which was like super important. I thought they might just like let it be and like, oh, they have palm trees. Weird, you know?
I'm so glad they explained it.
Yeah.
Really showing like, and to see Paul's reaction, like, oh, if it's costing us men, let's just cut them down because people's lives are worth more than stupid trees.
Right.
But they're like, no. This is an old dream. This is something big. Like, all right, cool. So now we got Paul like, oh, obviously that was weird. I need to go study more. So he goes to go study and he's learning more about the Fremen, and he sees like how you have this like plants coming up, and so we have plants on Arrakis, and he sees the mouse for the first time. And he goes up to see the mouse, which I think is cool that he like loves. So the mouse is cute. Oh, cool. There are other things beside the giant sandworm here that are alive. That's really nice.
Right.
The hunter-seeker scene happens, and I just saw this on Twitter, how like it's really cool how Paul even to hides in the same place that the mouse does. Like he's like on top of the mouse when this happens.
Yeah, for no reason, audience. There's no reason why he hides in the same place as the mouse. It's just
can we talk about the mouse yet? Can we just do that? Can we just go straight to the mouse?
I don't know. Can we?
I don't know. Somebody leave in the comments. We'll get there later. Can we talk about the importance of the mouse or not? All right. Perfect. Seeker happens. Shadow Mapes gets saved. She's like, oh.
Right.
And then we go straight to Hawat saying that, like, oh, I resign now. And you get the beautiful line from the Duke. They tried to take the life of my son.
Yeah. The Duke line. In the book, that line happens over and over again. It's a big deal. So the Dune readers, the fans, when they saw that, they were like, yeah, they tried to take the life of my son. Epic.
Somebody in the comments says, without spoilers, the mouse is symbolic of the tenacity of life in the desert.
Ooh, yeah, that's good. Let's leave that there.
Let's leave that there.
Works.
I think it's really good. It's a symbol of the how life can survive in the desert. That's good.
Right.
Real nice. Well, I'm not going to say anything more. Thank you very much, Alex C, for that. This is also the only shot where we get Jessica in the red dress. And I wanted more Jessica in the red dress of like,
everyone does.
Come on. Like, this is the scene where she's supposed to be like, Duke, I love you. I'm mad at you. Why are we here? I'm here to like look really good to piss you off to know that you're not going to get any.
Right.
Why did you do this to us? And we only got one little scene. And I was like, ah, there it is. Oh, it's gone.
Yeah.
Dang
And we didn't get the dinner scene
No.
at all.
We got like moments of that, of like what it was alluding to, but like about with the palm trees and how we're but yeah.
Here's my thought.
Tell
They're
me your thought.
I'm hoping they're gonna come out with an extended edition, just like the Lord of the Rings extended editions, that has the dinner scene in it. What are you making that face for?
Hope clouds observation. It's not going to happen.
Your face clouds observation. That's what I have to say about that.
Dang right it does. All right, next we go back to Giddy Prime, and this is what somebody in the comments here had asked about the spider. You see Giddy Prime, and you see the spider with human hands for Will Toesies.
Yeah.
And it's just weird, and it's not in the book. I think it's just weird.
It's just emphasizing the grossness of Giddy Prime and the Harkonnens. The Harkonnens.
Yeah.
They
It's
nasty. They got weird pets. That's who they are.
Somebody in the comments says the spider was supposed to be Yui's wife.
Oh,
Makes it even more weird. Because
wow.
that's what was done. I don't know.
Hate that.
Somebody says it's the Baron's sex toy. I don't know.
No.
You're grossing out Evan even more. Somebody,
God.
it's been known that Denis Villeneuve doesn't like spiders, so he just puts them in all his movies as a symbol of grossness. So, grossness. Here we go. Then we see the Reverend Mother come in. They have the cone of silence pop up, and
That
we
was cool.
weren't. Yes. And then basically the Reverend Mother says the Emperor is going to back you by giving you Sardaukar, 3 legions. And then we allude to there's no satellites on Arrakis. And I wish we would have got that, why can't we terraform Arrakis to make it better and put more satellites up there? And no one can afford it. So basically no one can afford to put satellites up there. We also know that the Reverend Mother is like, by the way, kill the Duke, but the mother and the son are under our protection.
Right.
And the Baron says the most politician thing ever, I give you my word, I will not harm them. Which, he's such a politician. Yeah, move on. So the next scene we get is the first meeting, where is it? First staff meeting, which I think they did a great job at.
That was good.
They take them outside afterwards, and you understand, we got to fill up all this with spice. And then you see the wide shot, and it's like, oh, these guys are so screwed. They've got to fill all of these in a month. They don't even have any of this equipment to do that. Like, this is going to be like a 10-year journey to build up the resources and just to be able to do normal things.
Right, because they were like, we have to fill all of these pallets once, whatever they said the time, but
25 days or something like that.
75% of the pallets didn't have the containers that they needed. They made it very obvious that they're totally screwed.
So of course, obvious person who can we look to blame for this, who can be in our corner that the Harkonnens have wronged us, and it's the judge of the change. And so they're like, okay, I want to meet with them. I want to see the spice fields, which I thought was just so perfect on how that worked and how fast that went. So I was like, that was a great way to get to there. Yeah. And then Hawat says, oh, he's here. And we get Duncan again coming back. Duncan comes back, hugs everybody. He says, my boy. And then, Timothy jumps into his arms. And in that scene,
you say Timothy jumps in his arms?
He jumps in his arms. And in that scene, Timothy also knees him in the balls.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you see him flinch in there, which is just funny. There's it's the callback for saying he doesn't have any muscle. Right. You gotta do that.
Dunk.
But I love what Paul says here. It says, you smell much worse. Because he's just been with the Fremen.
Right.
And the Fremen, I don't know, this is not a spoiler. They smell really bad. No one showers here.
Right.
So it's get used to that, Paul. You're gonna
be stanky. Yep.
We get Stilgar interaction. What do you think of Stilgar? I think the stuff, but what do you think?
Oh man, Stilgar. I just want him to be my dad. He was so cool. He was so cool. He just like walks up and everyone's like, "Hey, stop!" And he's like, "Bleh, bleh, bleh, bleh." And he had that sweet, like Spanish accent. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Oh,
I-
it was very cool. That's kind of how I wish um that like southern Spain, northern Africa kind of
mhm.
vibe.
Yeah.
That's what I wish at like across the board the Fremen had been. Or like had been like, you know, that type of accent, that type of attitude, the skin color, you know, all of that area just kind of like shoved together. But Stilgar was definitely one of my favorites in the movie anyway.
He understood the assignment when he was like, "Oh, I got this. This is no problem." And even like Jason Momoa says that working with Javier Bardem was incredible. It was like just 3 levels up in acting. You're like, "Oh, watching him was great. I have 3 scenes. That's fantastic." And you really felt his presence, especially when he spits on the table, and you're like, "What? This scene is so awkward," and I
Right.
love it.
But he's not awkward. Stilgar
No.
is not awkward. He's just like not threatened, not intimidated. He's just like, "Oh, no, you listen to me." You know, like he was very just steady,
Yes.
regardless of like the expectations that everyone else in the room had, you know?
Yes. He does. He's there for his thing, saying, "Stay out of our lands, and we'll be good." And and then it'll be great. And you know, the Duke's like, "Yeah, no problem, good." And he walks out, and then Hawat's like, "Oh, this will work. This is good and great." And I think even Paul in this scene, because Stilgar's like, "You take the spice and give nothing in return," and Paul's like, "Yeah, that's true. You're right."
That's true.
I love that, like right off the bat. Let's
Right.
acknowledge the feelings of the Fremen.
Right.
Fremen have feelings too.
Right. For real. And like, yeah, Paul even like you can see the hunger for like understanding and like knowing the Fremen in Paul when he's like, please stay. Like we would honor you.
Right.
And then the Fremen knock back of like, honor requires that I be elsewhere. And he like walks away. It's like, wow.
Yes. Honor requires I be elsewhere. It was so good. And then I love the next scene. You straight Duncan talking about it with all the buddies, right?
Right.
This is what a sand compactor is. He gives Paul a gift, right? The paracompass, which is great. Right. I love that ad. And then he talked about the Fremen and how they're fierce but loyal, like just like you want the Atreides to be. Like we fit perfectly together. And then basically he says how beautiful the desert is, and one day you're gonna see it, Paul, and it's gonna be great. And I love that like look on Paul's face, like, "Yeah, buddy, I want to go with you. Let's go together.
Let's go on an adventure, Duncan, Idaho."
Which I mean, I'd go on an adventure with Duncan, Idaho. That looks like so much fun.
Just hopefully he doesn't die.
Hey, too soon. I'm not emotionally ready.
At least it's not a spoiler.
Yes, very true. So next we get the spice harvester scene, right? We got the field trip.
That was a really good scene.
And you get again Paul doing things on accident, which lines up with the legend perfectly and makes Kynes go, "Okay,
yeah,
that was weird. I don't know if I believe this, but that was too weird."
Because he just knew how to put his still suit on.
And I loved Kynes here. I think she did a great job, really, with the mystery aspect of who is this person.
Yeah, I couldn't tell. If they were going to address the fact that Kynes was a woman. They did eventually.
Mm-hmm.
I thought maybe they're gonna leave it completely like non-binary,
right?
Like only use theys, you know, like because in the book it's a guy. In the movie it's very obviously a woman, and like I thought it would have been cool if they were just like Kynes said this, or like
Mm.
the imperial planetologist said that, like that kind of thing. But anyway, they gave it away at some point.
And I love how she even said, like, I'm accepted in both Sietch and Village. And then you cut to the Duke, and Duke's like, wait, how do I do that? I want that. How do I get invited to both? And she's like, no, that's above your pay grade. Like, moving on.
Yeah.
So then we fly in the Thopters, which is the coolest thing in the whole wide world.
Right.
Just all the inside shots going over, and they see the Harvester. And I love this point because in the book you get this feeling that Kynes was ordered by the Emperor to sabotage the Duke, and that's why the carryall never showed up. But in this case, you get the carryall just old and broken,
Right.
which I thought was a great ad.
Yeah.
You can go on to like the Atreides are screwed because their equipment's screwed and they're not going to have enough time to do all this. And she's like, sorry about it, bud. That's not my problem.
Right. The scene is just like, it just is different than it was in the book.
Right.
But I get why they did it, why they did it the way they did it for Hollywood's sake. Like,
yes.
They happened upon the spice factory, and the thing happened to not work, and that then, he shoots into action and goes and takes care of the whole situation. But like,
right,
in the book, it had very obvious sabotage vibes the whole time.
So of course the Duke is like, I'm going down there because it's all about people. We got to save the people. Always about people first. And I love this because they got Paul out on the sand and he's on the spice bed and something happens. What did you think about that prescient moment?
Paul's prescient moment on the by the factory, by the
right.
That was so cool because the trigger moment was he went outside. And you can see the twinkling spice in the air. Yeah. And he's like, hey, get everyone in the
whoa.
Like that was really cool. And you got a little picture of who he's gonna be.
Yes.
In that moment where he goes, I can hear your footsteps, old man. Like calm in complete chaos. He's like perfectly calm. And then Garney's like, get up, we're gonna go, and then he's like back to 15-year-old Paul.
His eyes get wide and something's happening, and he's obviously seeing these visions, which we get later is like, we get to know now that his mom is pregnant and there's this crysknife that someone's going to hand him and all these things. And you're like, whoa. And he's seeing all of this. And I just think they did a really good job with the prescience. It's when you read it in the book, sometimes you read it and you go, what the hell did I just read?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this was, you get to see those flashes, those montages a little bit better.
I think also something that we just like need to address about this whole scene was the moment when Leto said like, we gotta do something. We gotta save them. And the Thopter just goes like like the wings just go straight back and it like dives. That was like the most epic. Are you kidding me? That was super cool.
I'm really glad that you got up and did the motion right there. If you're not watching on YouTube, he just got up and did the motion.
If you're just listening, go on YouTube and see my demonstration because it's important. Okay.
1 hour and 24 minutes in. It's gonna be great.
The music cuts and the thing just like stops working basically and free falls to like get to the ground faster. That was
so cool.
So sick.
All right. So this is also our first look at the worm. The worm. So what did you think about the worm coming up and just swallowing the harvester?
Oh, it was so cool. They still like made it they didn't show everything. They more so showed what the worm does than showing the worm itself.
Yes.
And that one seemed like a big one. you know, and they even said like, "Oh, it's a big one."
Right.
And like the whole ground around this giant thing, like just collapsing upon itself and like falling. It was great. It was really really great. Yeah.
And as soon as they get back to Arakeen, right? Duke Leto jumps out of the thopter and starts scolding Paul. You have responsibilities. Like, what are you doing, son? You
Right.
like, you almost died.
It was like half dad, half like military leader, you know, because at the end of it, he's like, go. He's like, yes, sir. You know, like,
I'm so
moves
sorry.
away.
My bad. And I mean, it's not that it's really his fault. He's just tripping on spice.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand he's just like, and of course, this is another thing of like, the Duke's like, something's weird's happening to Paul. Ever since the Reverend Mother comes, something's weird. What's happening?
Yep.
And then the Duke tries to go on blame mode. See, everything's designed for us to fail. And Kind is like, sorry about it. The
That's not my
desert,
problem. Not my chain, not my problem.
the desert is hard. That's just it. It's not nice to equipment. It's not nice to humans. So the thing you should do is take care of your family.
That was like a big wink moment from Kynes. Like, take care of your family.
Wink. Wink, wink, wink.
Uh,
I can't tell you much, but I can tell you need to take care of your family.
right. Spoilers, Kynes. Jeez.
Gosh. But then we see that Jessica's obviously freaked out, brings in the doctor. I'm like, doctor's like, yes, he's cool. And Paul's like, yeah, that was not an allergic reaction. That was my visions. Just like I've
Right.
been dreaming. The same girl pops up. We make out. And then she stabs me. What is going on? Oh, man. So that's and then all of a sudden you have her holding the knife. But all of a sudden she's like, but it was my death, but it wasn't my death. And that whole scene is also tinted yellow. And then the yellow tint pops off as soon as you see Reverend Mother Fremen Jessica pop up,
yeah.
which was so sick. And I'm so pumped for part 2 to see that whole scene.
Right. That was so cool.
I can't say anything else, but people, you should go read the book. And he's like, yeah, some things are fuzzy, but some things are super crystal clear. And we see baby Alia just sitting there with her blue eyes. And she's just so pretty and precious and not crazy. And it's great.
Is her name a spoiler?
No, her name doesn't
Okay.
mean anything. It's just, that's the baby Alia. I'm sorry.
What's the baby's name, everyone?
Baby has a name. Baby should be named, everybody. It's a normal thing for people to name their babies. But that Jessica's like, how do you know that? I don't even know that. Like, I just figured that out.
I barely know that. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So yeah, somebody commented again. The yellow is used for imminent danger here on
Right.
YouTube. So yes. So next now starts the attack on Arakeen. We
Yes,
go to
okay.
Seleucus Secundus, and it's raining and it's gross and they're throat singing and it's beautiful. And you see, and you were right, by the way. The trailers were so misleading. Like, none of the
Yeah.
lines that happened in the trailer is actually going to happen in the books. But I thought this would be Gideon Prime. You said this was Seleucus Secundus, and ding, 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 Evan got something completely right. Good job, Evan. 10 points to Gryffindor.
Thank you.
And we see all the things, and Piter is there, and he's like, and the Bashar, the leader of the Sardaukar, is like, why are we doing this? The Emperor said so. And Piter's like, well, they are the best troops in the Imperium, trained by Duncan Idaho and Gurney Halleck and Thufir Hawat. And the guy's like, I don't care. And his little throat singing.
Yeah, their like language is like throat singing, which I didn't expect them to have a language. Why would Seleucus Secundus have its own language? It's a prison, you know.
Evan,
That was-
everybody has language.
well, like their own specific language. You know what I mean?
Yeah, only the strongest survive there. And the first test is understanding throat language. Throat singing.
Otherwise, you get hung on a pyramid and your blood
dripped out and put over
drips
people.
down.
Gross. So now we see Jessica again crying. She's just had the encounter with Paul where she realizes that, holy crap, Paul is legit seeing the future. And this is no bueno. And she's like trying to compose herself.
This is not a drill.
I don't know how to handle this. This is not in the Bene Gesserit training guide. I don't know what's happening. It's just rumors that this might happen. And she goes to Leto and be like, I have something to tell you. And he's like, no, I don't want to know. Which I thought was beautiful. And he's like, will you protect Paul? And she's like, yes. He's like, I'm not asking you. I'm asking the Bene Gesserit.
Mm.
And she doesn't answer him.
She doesn't answer. Dude.
She just deflects.
Right.
And says, this isn't you. You wouldn't worry about such things. That's moving the conversation in a different way.
Yes, it's such a Bene Gesserit move to be like, of course I would protect him. I'm asking the Bene Gesserit, not his mother. What are you worried about? Why are you so worried?
Right. I'm like,
She's spun him. She's spun him.
And I think you feel the tension here in Jessica, almost the most. You see it a lot, but she's like resolute, Bene Gesserit, freaking out as the mom.
Right.
And she like goes back and forth on that line of where do her loyalties lie, and how can her loyalties not lie with her son? But you also have this other thing on top of you that's looming. But yeah, okay, that's just so much, and I loved Rebecca Ferguson's performance of this because you really saw that tension hardcore in her throughout the entire film. Yeah. And especially in that last scene where something flips and you're like, oh no, something happened. It's no bueno. So next scene is shot of the bull statue and Paul is just staring at it. Mm-hmm. Symbolism. We're about to go into something really bad. Yeah. Here we go. And then Yui drops off some sleeping pills, which I'm like, don't take the sleeping pills. But they do it. It's funny because in the book, they don't take the sleeping pills at all. They don't sleep at all. But in this, they do. And so we get that. And then we get that shot to Duke Leto and Jessica. And she's like, you need to sleep. And he's like, no, not like that. And then she like massages his forehead. And he like puts his hand up and says like, I should have married you. And that just... I love that. I'm glad he got to tell her in person in the movie. That's just precious. It's also the last thing he says to her.
Oh, okay. Just gonna drop that. Drop that on me. My day was going okay until you said that.
I mean, if you're gonna say something, that's gosh, get all your feelings out, Duke Leto. You're not gonna have much time anymore.
Express yourself,
please. Do it. So then he's doing there. And by the way, I just really need one of those Atreides shirts. They just look mad comfortable. And they just, he's sleeping in it, just all cozy and whatnot. And then his eyes awake and you realize, it's like when you wake up and the power's out and you know something's wrong.
Right.
And speaking of the power going out, the shield generator and all that equipment, like you saw Yui do his thing. And it was just like this massive, giant machine doing that. I thought that was kind of cool. It's like, whoa. Yeah. I thought it was just like a switch. That was huge.
Right. Well, so it's going to cover like a whole palace, man.
Okay, you're not wrong. You're right. So we see that. And he gets up. And he's wandering around. And then he hears like, ah! And you know who it is. It's the Shadow Mapes.
Abuelita.
He's stabbed.
Don't
like,
leave
oh
me.
No. And then I love how he puts on his shield here. Is in the book he gets hit by the dart before he gets a shield on. But the dart is perfectly placed, like right in that spot of your back you can never reach. We all have that one spot, and it's right there, and it's just like, oh, how infuriating! You're like, I did everything right, and it's still in that one spot.
Yeah. I think he puts the shield on because now we know that it's gonna turn red when something penetrates it.
Ooh, it's a visual cue.
It's a visual cue. Yeah. So like when it happens, the music gets all crazy and he's all like vibrating red and stuff and falling over.
Gosh, Evan, you should do movies. That was good.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
My gosh. All right. That sounds really good. So yeah, you can see that. And then the traitor was revealed, and it's Yui. And I mean, this is the only part that I was like, well, there's a couple parts I had grief with, but this part, because I wanted him to go, you say the thing, we learn that Wana is the reason he's doing all this, and he just says, like, I'm gonna put your I'm gonna replace your peg tooth with this tooth, and you're gonna kill the Baron, and I want to kill somebody, and you're gonna do it. You were dead anyway. And then, but I wanted him to say it. You know what I wanted him to say?
What?
The tooth. The tooth. I just wanted that so badly, and it's okay. It didn't happen.
Remember the tooth, and he like his vision goes blurry. The
tooth. Yeah, the tooth. That's all I want. Okay, but we just got the like, I'm gonna replace your tooth. And I was like, no, you gotta remember the tooth. But you can't get everything you want. They did a good job. So then somebody, you might have not caught this. I just saw that somebody posted this on Twitter, but it was somebody. So somebody awakes Gurney, and right next to Gurney is sitting his Balasat. We don't get him see him playing it, but it's there in the film. So yeah.
It's fine. Here's a spoiler. In part 2, we're gonna see him playing Wonderwall. So
no, you're gonna see Paul playing Wonderwall.
2 days.
I can't even talk.
Sorry.
It's so good though.
Keep
It's
going.
so good. So yeah, if you're interested in seeing Timothée Chalamet sing Wonderwall, this part 2 is your chance. I know it's something you've always wanted. Here we go. And then we see the ships happen and the attacks happening, and I love that they did this. It's so cool that like the ships drop down and have like the balloons pop out to stop their
Yeah, that was cool.
not making go as fast. I was like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's all I got on that. But then you see Gurney coming out, and they're yelling at him with me, and the bagpipes go, and you're like, yeah. I hope the bagpipe guy made it out alive. And I don't know though, because that battle did not go well for the Atreides. There was no way they were going to win that one.
He's just running into laser gun fire, like.
Here we go.
Squeeze,
squeeze. I can see him like hit a guy with one of the with this bag, and then keep going,
swinging the bagpipes around. Makes a big noise when you hit somebody with it.
Oh, yeah. Anna says we wish you had the war pug. I think.
Yeah.
You don't know about that yet, Evan. It's in the 1984 movie. We'll watch that later. But maybe
I heard you guys talking about it.
Yeah, the war pug. They're funny. Maybe the bagpipes are this version's pug. I love that.
Oh.
Okay, moving on. Something we'll always remember about the movie that's just random and out of place. So now you see the starter. So like you see the Atreides fighting, and then the starter car drop in behind them, and you're like, golly, there's no way they're making out of this. And then we get the trees on fire. You see the whole palm trees on fire.
And the Harkonnens are walking in.
Yeah.
When the trees are on fire, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
To further show you how disgusting and evil and awful they are.
Yeah, this 100-year dream, I don't give a shit about your dreams.
Right.
That's what the Harkonnens say. And then you have
in prophet. Man.
And then they have all the Atreides lined up, and then you see Raban, and that's kind of fuzzy, just chopping off heads one by one. I was like, loving it, and I'm like, oh man. But I love that visual cue of the palm trees on fire.
Yeah, that was good.
It was beautiful.
And
then you have the starter car just walking in, and it's Duncan versus everybody. Like, I don't think anybody else had a fight scene except for Duncan, except, Paul and Jameis.
Right.
But he kills more people than anybody else.
Right.
In this whole movie.
At one point, he talks about how the Fremen found him.
Yes.
And he says, I got to be honest, I've never been so close to dying.
Hmm.
And then you hear that Sardaukar are these like incredible fighters, and then you see Duncan Idaho just mowing them down, like 20 of them, like several times.
Yes.
So that's like the hint at how good the Fremen are at fighting and at battle,
Killing.
you know?
So now I love we do the split scene here between Paul and Jessica in the Thopter, right? The drugs have worn off, their sleeping pills have worn off, and they're now tied up in the Thopter. Jessica has been gagged, and they're like, why don't we just kill him now? They have to face the Truthsayer. And then cuts to Duncan fighting all these people, knowing he needs to get out. He's got to save Paul and Jessica. And he gets to the Thopter and he sees the Harkonnens and he goes up and there's like 10 of them or so. And he just takes 3 apart. Just easy. They're like paper people compared to the Sardaukar. And then he's going towards the Thopter and there's more of them. And he just like beats his chest, throws his weapon up and says, to hell, dogs. And they just run away.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you? Like, that was too much. I'm not fighting that guy.
I know. I want to live. I don't want to do this. I think it's just great. Hops in the Thopter and then he starts flying, which the flying sequence was so cool. And you see like the laser gun come out and trying to get him. And he like the way he flies it around. I was like, wow, that's so cool.
That was good.
That's it. Yeah, that's perfect.
Moving on.
And you see the Baron floating in behind everybody. And it's just like, ew, gross. I hate you so much. I think in the theater, I was like, ew, like audibly. Up back to Paul and Jessica in the Thopter. You have this green light on them, straight from the book. And this is your favorite scene, Evan. So I'm going to let you handle this scene. What did you think about this?
This was one of the very few moments where I was genuinely disappointed.
Oh, okay. Let's hear it.
Because, you know, it's this big moment where we get to see Jessica use the voice, and the guys, the Harkonnen soldiers were like alluding to the fact that they were gonna, like, you know, rape her,
yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's coming. Like, that scene from the book is coming. And Paul uses the voice, and he tries to use the voice. It doesn't work. And then he uses it again, and it works. And they like uncover Jessica's mouth. And then she goes to use the voice, and she says, untie me.
Yeah.
Let us go. Kill him, you know? And it was just like the very obvious use of the voice that you would expect with no context.
Right.
But in the book, it was my favorite scene because she actually is seductive as opposed to like just commanding and scary like she was. So she used what they wanted against them, like her attackers, her possible like abusers. She used her femininity and her sexuality to destroy them. And I thought that was just like such a cool moment. And I wish they had done that. But maybe it wouldn't have translated. I don't know. I'm not a movie making person. So
I think they had to do it for time, obviously.
Yeah.
But I do love how Jessica corrected him right away. Like she handles the situation and then first thing she says to Paul is, "Your pitch was too forced."
Right.
Like chastising him, like, get it right.
She was just grumpy. She was just grumpy the whole time. Her
She's having a rough.
When she was using the voice, she just sounded like a really grumpy mom. Kill him. Untie me.
She's had a long night. Okay,
go get your juice box. You know, like
mom voice all the way. So the Thopter goes down. They see Arakeen. They know they can't go back there, so they turn around and it's just nothing but dunes. And you're like, oh, guess that's where we're going. And now we get the scene of naked Oscar Isaac.
Yeah.
which I thought they did really, really tastefully. When
Yeah.
that happened, I was like, wow, I really love this scene. I'm really
just
glad he's
in a
naked, which is
chair.
weird for me to say.
Like conked out.
Yeah. And then we see the bull. He like right above him is the bull again. And it's like, oh,
And he can see it because his head is like
yes.
all the way back, like tilted all the way back.
Yes. And even on this, I'm looking at the picture right now. You can see the dried blood on the bull's horns.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is the time you don't leave. This is the time you don't exit the arena. This time the
Right.
bull gets you.
And then cut to the Baron's disgustingness as he's just eating and moaning.
I was so glad that they got
slopping his
him
mouth.
eating. I'm so glad they got him eating.
Which, another parallel with Lord of the Rings with the scene of Denethor eating that
Mhm.
tomato, which was the grossest depiction of a tomato in human history. And they pulled it off. They pulled it off so well. He's like, you have a great kitchen, cousin.
And I love how even they do the whole Yui thing, and he's chewing through that entire scene. And it's just gross.
Yeah.
Like, having a conversation with someone who's chewing is hard enough, but like having them float over you while doing it is even more disgusting. And even that, he like lifts up and he goes over the table, and there's a part where he like just drags his feet, and I was like, oh,
his feet like knock.
yes.
Yeah.
So he does that, and then you have Duke. He's mumbling something. The Baron leans closer, turns on his little shield generator, which is on one of his rings,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have the Duke saying his line. At this point, he probably thinks everyone is dead. Jessica's dead. Paul is dead. But I mean, Yui said he'd try to save him, but he just says, here I am, and here I will remain. And then bites it down, gets him, and I love that the Baron just pulls away real fast, and he floats up, and you see Piter turn, and everyone just dies and melts.
Yeah. And the cool thing that happened was as soon as he breathes out, the Baron's shield
Yes.
goes completely red, and it's like, and you're like, you feel the danger while you're watching that scene. You're like, oh, he gonna die.
Yeah, I think it was beautiful. That whole scene was done so well.
Yeah.
And then we go to the still suit, so we skip that. We go into the still tent, which I didn't catch. It was a still tent the first time. I was like, what is that lump in the sand? But it's a still tent.
Right.
And they know it's Dr. Yui that did it. And then you cut back to the scene of like, it's now morning, up at the bull's head again, even closer, like dun dun dun. And you see the Duke Guido just right there, dead. Everyone else is also dead. Then you see the shot of Kynes looking out of the city that's now burning, because of course the Harkonnen just demolished the whole city they're about to govern for no good reason, except they can. Like, gross. And you see Kynes there looking over the city, and up pulls Duncan, and Duncan's pissed. Like, you got to say something. And she's like, no, I'm not I'm commanded to not say anything. And she's like, that's so rude. Why would you do that? Cut back to the scene.
On.
And you see like the Harkonnens coming in to the room where everyone's dead. And they look up and they see the Baron in like the corner, kind of like a balloon that gets away. You ever see like a balloon you let go and it goes to the top corner of the room? He's just like that, like freaking out. And I love the people there because they like did that shot of the men just freaking out, like, oh crap, he's still alive. Yeah. Dang it. They're more petrified than anything else. All right, so straight, straight to the tent scene, and you can see like they turn on the light and see spice in the air, and you see like Paul starts sweating, and it's like that really close shot,
Yeah.
like almost like a fisheye shot of
Yeah.
him, and then he starts having these visions, and so you have this vision of Chani walking up, right? She turns around, and this was so good because you're coming up, and then you do the pan tilt down, and you see the fighters fighting each other, and you see all these craziness happening.
Right.
And then Paul sees himself with blue eyes there, and then
Yeah.
shot back to Paul in the tent, just crying at
I
this
thought
whole thing.
I thought they were gonna make that scene a lot more like trippy.
Yeah,
You know, I thought it was gonna be much more like stuff is vibrating and very like Requiem for a Dream, like
like kaleidoscopes and stuff.
yeah, and like
Yeah.
Paul's like quick twitchy shots of him, and he's seeing all kinds of different things in his visions, but it was fairly tame compared to what we saw on the book. That was this like massive pivotal moment in the book, you know.
Yes, and you get some of it, and I think like the third time I watched it, I was like, okay, I can kind of see what's happening because you have those montage sequences. You see the Chris knife again, like certain visions are making recurring
Right.
shots, so the audience knows this is important. You need to like look for this.
Yeah. I just
Um,
thought it would be much more acidy than it was.
Yes, and he starts saying like the holy war, it's coming, it's the future, I can see it. You have this unquenchable fire. You see shots back on Kaladin, and it's him with blue eyes, with Chani right next to him.
Yeah.
And Jessica's like, "Are you okay? I can see you're scared. Tell me what's happening." And he's just flipping out.
Yeah.
Somebody help me! And he can just see all. He says it holding again in this unquenchable fire, this holy war. And he starts backing up like he's trying to escape this thing, and he can't. A warrior religion, everything's shouting. Fanatical legions, they're worshiping at my father's shrine. There's a war in my name. Everyone's shouting my name. And Jessica comes up like, "You are the Duke Paul Atreides," which I'm sure doesn't help because they're all shout. He's the Duke.
Thanks, Mom.
He's the one in charge. And she's like, "Remember, you're the one in charge." He goes, "I know. Can't you tell? The visions are obvious that I'm in charge and this is bad. I don't want to do this."
Yeah.
And then she's
Oh,
like, "You know
man.
who you are." And here Paul does the voice right for the first time. The first time he does it, he gets it right. He says, "Get off of me." And
Yeah.
she just jumps back. "You did this to me. The Bene Gesserit made me a freak." And she just breaks down again. Like, this is something that she did to him.
Yeah.
She did all the training. She did all the things from a young age to prepare him for this moment. Here he is, and she can't help him at all. And it's just like, ugh, woof. And I wish we got more of that feeling. More of that like motherness in that scene because she immediately hugs him,
Right.
and then my father's dead. I mean, he's back.
Then he's like stoic again.
It's all back to normal.
Right. Well, it's also his first step into his new person. He's a new person after that experience, you know?
So great point, because as soon as they open up the still tent, what do they see?
just a little bigger mousy boy. Is this the scene where he like gets a little dribble of water off his ear and like,
Yeah.
so cute? Why'd they have to make him so cute though? You know, that's my problem.
Because Timothy is cute. Avi.
Oh
That's
yeah.
it,
So
yeah.
it's gotta,
Cutesy and cutesy. You have to
For
see the
some-
obvious correlation between the cutesters.
yeah, because they're connected for some reason.
For some reason we can't talk about. Well, I think you made a great point. He is a new person, right? It's this first night in the sand in this new world, freaking out, and that's where he's at. And it's just, yeah.
Yeah.
They get out, and the Thopter comes swooping in, and it's Duncan. And Duncan grabs him, and he says, "My Lord Duke." And it's just so emotional. You're like, okay, good. At least Duncan is not dead. Duncan found him. It's gonna be okay. And then they get an adopter, and they're with Kynes. They're going to the ecological testing center, and then you get the Kynes speech, like Arrakis could have been in paradise, but then they found the spice, and now no one wants the spice to leave, and the desert's all they have.
Right.
And they're like, "Ugh." And but she does the hospitable thing. You know what she does? She orders a coffee service,
Yeah, she does.
which got me thinking. And you mentioned this too in the chapter about like in certain parts of the Middle East and North Africa, and even some like Central Africa, Eastern Africa, they do coffee services where it's this traditional thing, and everyone has their little bit of coffee, and it's just
Yeah.
this hospitality thing you do together. It's like a
Right.
bonding thing.
The Ethiopian coffee ceremony
Yes.
thing. So cool. So fun.
Which I love how we got that too, because then you see the Fremen actually making the coffee, and I obviously didn't think of this, and it's like, where do they get the water from? They spit it. Well, duh, Caleb, you could have figured
Obviously.
that out. I thought it was like the water rings or something they use, but no, they just spit it out. You don't need a lot. It's like a little shot glass.
Yeah.
So, and it's so funny. The people next to me were like, ew, why are they spitting on it? And I was like, they're making coffee.
How
That's the
dare
water.
you?
That's the
How
water for the
That
coffee.
is the gift of their moisture.
Come
Okay,
on.
don't say that.
Yes.
So ignorant, uncultured
Ugh.
swine. That's what you are. He's
Yes.
yelling at people. He's yelling at people in the theater. Shut your mouth.
And then they have this little spice like container. They like drop a little bit into it.
Yeah.
And then and then we get the speech, the plan from Paul to Kynes. Like, you need to say what happened, Kynes, and what's going to happen? Chaos. It's going to erupt. But I have a different plan. The Emperor has no daughters. I will marry one of those daughters, and we'll make Arrakis beautiful with a wave of my hand, he says. And she's like, not budging it. She's like, you're just a boy. Like, it's not
Right.
going to matter. So
You're
he takes
making
it.
Play for the throne. You're a boy.
You're
hiding in
50
a hole.
You're 15. What are you going to do?
Gosh.
So then he amps it up. He goes to the next level. If regular politics won't work, let's go religion.
Mm-hmm.
The Fremen speak of the Wazan al-Gaib, and then you cut to Jessica, and she's like, whoa, careful, don't go there. This is rough terrain. I don't know if you want to do this. And so he just goes off and kind of is like, huh? And then he like reads her mail pretty much. I don't know how he knows this. Is he guessing? Has he seen this? I haven't seen this in a vision. I was like, okay, I guess Paul's just cool like that. I would have liked a little more connection there, of how he sees the future, like maybe a flashback or something. And I was like, okay. So somebody commented, Paul just saw the Holy War right in the tent in his name, and then immediately starts using the prophecy of the Wazan al-Gaib to manipulate Kynes to use the Fremen for his own goals.
Yeah.
Like, immediately starts that. Like, oh, there's going to be a Holy War. I'm going to use the Fremen. Wait, do I want the Holy War? I don't know. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing yet, but it's cool. And then you cut back to the Fremen making coffee, and they're like, do you think he's it? Is he the Mahdi? I don't know. He's pretty young. Is this guy it? Is he going to lead us across the universe to take care of all these people? I don't know.
Yeah.
And then the Sardaukar show up, and I love the ambush of the Sardaukar.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, they walk into this trap. The Fremen pop up out of nowhere and just start killing people like crazy.
Did you notice that? I think I only kind of noticed it the first time. They're like talking like, oh, is he the Mahdi? I don't know. Making coffee. We're hanging out. And then the Sardaukar show up and the Fremen are gone.
Gone. Even the
And then
coffee's gone. There's just a little cup
The
left.
coffee is just sitting there. And they had already like hidden. So like they snuck up on the people sneaking up on them. What?
That's why the Fremen are so dangerous.
Right.
And then cut to Duncan in the back in the ecological testing chamber, picking up the same bug that he saw the beetle in Paul's dream. And so it's like, oh no, is this gonna happen right now? It happens right now. Articar come, Duncan's like, I got this. Paul's like, no, because he remembers the dream he had, and he has to be there in order to save Duncan, but Duncan goes anyways. He's like, no, and he's banging on the door. And I mean, Duncan handles like a good 15 people.
Right. Again,
then more
proving
come.
how intense the Fremen are, because he just murks so many Sardaukar in that one scene, you know?
I mean, yeah, he does. And they're supposed to be the best fighters in the Imperium. Well, and that's why, I mean, if everyone's trained by Duncan, obviously they're going to kill Sardaukar too, which means why the Emperor would want to get rid of him in the first place.
Right.
So, I mean, that's why you need that line from Piter when that happened.
Yeah.
So he gets stabbed, and then they do the laser gun, and they're like, he's gone. And then Kyne's like, we gotta go. And then the laser gun's happening, and they can't get past it. And they didn't want to like jump over it or anything. That would be too easy. They just wait. And then Duncan pops back up again, like the dude won't die. Pulls out the sword, and then continues to kill more people. Like he knows this is the end. He knows it's done. And yeah, he's just if he's gonna go out, he's gonna kill as many people as possible. Give Paul as much time as he needs. And so they're running. They run through the hall, which is like, now we're hitting my favorite scene in the book. And they run. I mean, we're in that Kynes is like, oh my gosh, she's going to be like a Fremen. That's so crazy. And she's like, ride the storm. If you stay above this altitude, you'd be cool. Like, all right. And then they're running. And I love just, oh my gosh, the cinematography in this scene is so beautiful. Like how it's the use of shadows and light here. And because it's all dark and then it rises and you see the Thopter there, which is like an old Thopter.
Yeah.
It's like the VW Beetle, the old one of
Right.
Thopters.
Yeah. It's a mystery mobile.
Yeah.
Mystery machine. Thopter.
So they get it running. They like pull everything down. You see the wings come out. They fly out, and then you get Kynes walking out, and this is the Kynes death scene. And I don't have issues with this scene because I know why they did it.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody commented somewhere that I saw that it was beautifully done because the environment still killed her. In the book, the planet kills her.
Yeah.
Here, it's lack of water, and she does a thing, and she's like, you betrayed the Emperor. She's like, I only have one master, Shai Hulud. And then she called the Thumper, so the worm is coming. So she then starts rhythmically beating, knowing that if she's going to die, these bastards are going with her.
Right, for sure.
And then you see it. And as the worm comes, she almost like embraces it.
Right.
I really wanted to see her write it and do all that. But, we'll have to wait for part 2 to see somebody getting up how to ride a worm.
Yeah.
What did you think about the Kynes death scene? Because I know in the book, it's like a pivotal moment about talking about Messiah figures. Talking about charismatic leaders.
They wouldn't have been able to pull it off because Kynes was alone in the book. He didn't have anyone to talk to.
Yes, and the whole thing was happening in his head and
his thoughts. Yeah, so it was they had to change something. Otherwise, it wouldn't have made much sense for just the regular person watching the movie.
Yeah. I love how it came out. It came out water, not blood, because water and blood in this world are the same thing.
Right.
So then you get the flight into the storm, and they go in the storm, and they're going in it, and then who starts saying the litany again? Jessica.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see Paul mouthing it a little bit here. And you're seeing it, and the pain, not the pain, but the intensity of the event is really similar to the Gom Jabbar scene.
Right.
And you have the vision start up again. Because again, these storms are supposed to rip metal to shreds. This is supposed to kill anybody and everybody. And here we are riding it, surfing the storm almost. And this is where you see Jameis for the first time, which I thought they did a really good job with.
Yeah, that was cool. And that was a cool explanation of like, we are seeing possible futures,
Yes.
you know?
And it's that the voice telling him to see the friend. This is the person that's going to guide you
Yeah.
into where you need to go. And he says that beautiful line that the mystery of life isn't a problem to solve, but a reality to experience.
Ooh, good juice.
And that's another good juice that is just Dune in a nutshell.
Right.
It's just all that goodness of beautifulness.
Yeah.
And so he does this, and the voice tells Paul to let go. Which, okay, cool. You're supposed to ride it. He lets go. He like pulls the wings back and then leans back, and then the whole Thopter just spins through the
Yeah.
storm. Which would make me really dizzy. It would probably give me like a concussion. So I was really confused about that. I was like, oh, okay, all right, we'll just ride it out.
Yeah.
We'll just let the G-forces just pull us back to keep us in our chairs the whole time.
I mean, you also don't have 15 years of military training. like
You're
Paul
right.
does.
Wow, you're so right. Yep, nailed it. But while this is happening, we think they might be dying. They don't die. But we go back to Arakeen, where the Baron is healing from his encounter with the poison.
Oh, so gross.
And I love that they was in this goo, and they're like, oh, he's healing in this goo, which is gross.
Right. I liked visually how they made the goo gold liquid and black oil,
Oh, that's so good.
which is like the things for us as a
Yes.
earthling audience, right? Like it's gold and it's
Humans in the
oil.
21st century.
Right. It's gold and oil. Those are the I don't know what to call it, but these like symbols of coveted things, like the things that greedy
we've-
humans value.
What we
Um,
fight wars over.
And that's what he was just submerged in. That gives that greed vibe to the Baron. I thought it was cool.
Well, yeah, that's fantastic. There's nothing more to say about this, but yeah, that's good. So he thinks they're dead.
Yeah.
Ta-da! Then we see a shot of back to Paul and Jessica, and you see Paul's hand has got the signet ring on him, like he is still the Duke. The dukedom isn't dead, even though the Baron thinks it is. And they're like, the wings pop back up because they hit the right altitude and they're like floating above. But the Thopter's been so thrashed by this point that it's starting to fall apart.
Right.
And when the wings fall off, I love it because they just go into a barrel roll to make sure the landing is decent.
Right.
And I love this shot because it's straight from the book with the wing straight up. I was like, when that happened, I was like, wow.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
I'm so glad. Like, Denis Villeneuve loved this book. He was obsessed with it. And They
Right.
said on set, like, he had his tattered old copy that's been underlined and just looked like crazy. So he like studied this. He
Yeah.
knew what it was, and I just, as a fellow lover of Dune, I just appreciate him.
He was
So much for
probably as upset as we were when they had to change stuff. He's like,
100%.
No, we gotta keep the dinner scene, guys.
Yep.
Come on.
And they're like, Denis, I know you don't want a 7-hour movie. He goes, but the fans do. Okay, you're right. Let's cut it. So just like in the book, they get to the rock, and immediately Paul starts taking off his clothes because he's already moving on to the next step. And Jessica's like, oh crap, we're doing this. Okay. They put on the still suits. He adjusts the still suit. And then it's time to walk the sand. And then Paul is remembering his visions of like, okay, we got to find the Fremen. The only thing I know about the Fremen are kind of from my visions in Duncan. So he sees Duncan with them.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like remembering what could have been, which is a direct line in the book. They do that too. Like Duncan was supposed to be here, but he's not. Which sucks. And you see Jessica feeling her abdomen, like making sure the baby's okay. And then Paul is now just wandering. He's having more visions of Chani and also more visions of mice. And the mice can survive. It's all good. We have more shots of the Chris knife. We have more things called Follow the Friend with Jameis popping up.
Right.
And Jameis is like, I'm going to show you the ways of the desert. So he's like, okay, cool. I know 4 things. I know Chani's cool. We know that the Chris knife's important. We know the mouse is important. And when this guy shows up, I need to like follow him where he's going.
Or something.
All those scenes are in yellow too. So it's like except for the Chris knife. That one's like solid. I'm like, oh,
Right.
Okay. What's going to happen? So they start walking the dunes. They know they need to walk at night. They're walking at night. There's like lots of scenes of them resting because they don't know where they're going. They're really just walking from rock to rock. Hopefully the Fremen will find them because you can't find the Fremen. And they're doing it, and all of a sudden they hear that rumbling in the distance. And they were trying to do the sand walk, but they're new.
Yeah. They also stumbled into some drum sand.
I love that.
Right.
Well, why does Paul, when he hits the drum sand, goes, wait, drum sand? So he hits it, dun, dun, in a rhythmic way 2 more times. I was like, come on, you're going to call the worm even faster now.
I guess the only reason I can think of is to explain somehow to the audience what drum sand is.
So true. Okay.
Because it would have been so hard to just like, like for somebody to just A, naturally understand that, or B, the movie sit down and explain drum sand.
Also, know that the rhythmic ness calls the worm. So now the worm is coming. So they're running. Paul falls down. I'm like, oh my gosh, get up. So he's run. And the worm is like chasing him, which in the theater, in IMAX, I was like, oh, this is incredible.
Right. Yeah. It was amazing.
My toes are curling. This is awesome.
And then it just stops for what feels like a half an hour. It's just sitting there with its big mouth.
And it looks at Paul and talks to Paul. Can we talk about that real fast? It like blah 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 blah, like the little butthole that is the worm mouth, like opened and closed several times, and I was like, what is happening? Is he talking to him?
Yeah.
Is something what? I don't know what's happening, but there is that it looks like an eye staring at Paul.
Right. It's the giant toothy eye.
And I don't know what that means, but it means something cool.
So, okay, that was the best shot we got of a worm.
Yes.
And it is so dark. In IMAX, it was so dark.
So
when I
dark.
watched it on my crappy little extra monitor that I have, it's barely visible. Like they still kept so much mystery around the details, of the of the worm.
And I was worried about like the lighting of some of these scenes because they do happen so much at night.
Right.
But this did provide it kept that mystery really there, like really there. It's beautiful.
Yep.
And another part is, so you hear the thumper again, bump, 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 bump. And the worm hears it, he turns, and he like dives into the sand. And you see the sand. I love this visual cue because it looked like water crashing against the rocks.
Yeah.
And you look back and you can see the wake of the worm and it was chasing it, like making more dunes. And I was like, wow, this is so cool.
Yeah, dude.
I just loved in this universe. I want to be solely immersed here. I mean, not really, because that would suck and I would smell, but still, it's really cool.
If you could like go into it and then come out of it, if it was like Ready Player One, You
like
just
take a shower.
You take a portal to Arrakis, hang out, and then leave, and then stop playing and go take a real shower. That would be
Bro,
nice.
in 50 years, it's going to happen. It's going to
Woo.
be there. It's going to be trippy. So then Jessica's like, no, we got to go. So they run up. And this is also the first time you see plants on Arrakis as they're going up in here, which is a sign of the Fremen.
Mhm.
And Jessica's like, how big are they? That was insane. And they're like, she's holding him close. Like, that was nuts. Holy cow. And then really in the book, that's a small worm. That wasn't a big worm. That was just
Yeah, and you could tell, like, if you had read the book, when you like noticed the last one that ate the factory, and this one is like, it's big, it's gigantic, right? But it's like, it's small enough that we see like its whole head and Paul standing there. Like, I turned to my buddy Arden that you guys saw in the video. I was like, that's a little baby one. And he was
Yeah.
like, what?
I can't wait till part 2.
Yeah.
It's gonna be so cool. But then gosh, Paul was aware that they are not alone.
Right.
He can
Somebody
sense
set off the thumper.
somebody must have done that. And he hears some like pebbles falling, turns around and there's a Fremen like right behind him. Like, oh,
They're just there. Yeah.
like
I
like
that.
Batman when he shows up in a scene, like, oh, there he is.
Storm's coming.
And then you see them all pop up. And then you hear Stilgar saying, do not run. You'll only waste your body's water. And I love that because it's like, that's a direct line pretty much from the book too, of like when they get there,
Yeah.
like, don't do anything. You're going to sweat. And we want all of that moisture in your body so that
Right.
when we take you to the stills, we get more water.
Yeah.
And again, Javier Bardem killed it on this. He understood what the role was.
There was a little less yelling at the other Fremen in that scene than there was in the book, though.
There
Like
was
in
a
the
little
book,
bit, yeah.
If you guys go back and watch the episode where we talked about this chapter, Stilgar is just like,
Yo, Jameis, shut up, bro. She's gonna kill me, bro. Like, don't stop. Chill out.
but
Yes,
he was
there
much
was
more composed in the movie.
and I did want a little bit of like Kynes. I wanted this because he says we can't touch the boy. Someone's like, "Is this Lozano Al Gaib?" And he's like, "I don't know. I wish he would get out like Kynes warned us to look for you, the
Right.
boy you're safe with us, but the girl, the woman, I don't care about. Let her die." And then, like, you start to like. Silver's like, all right, I'm gonna kill you now. Cool. Takes off his cloak. Paul's like, what? And they like Paul darts off, takes off Jameis, knocks him over, runs up, like knocks somebody else over, runs up the little rock face.
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Oh yeah, Evan, you
I think this is what I think from watching.
tell me what
The
you think.
moment when this all happens and they run, the moment where he decides to knock down Jameis is where that future disappears.
Oh,
If he had just like snuck out and not hit Jameis at all, Jameis would not have been offended. Therefore, he would have only been impressed. And he wouldn't have tried to fight him. He wouldn't have challenged him.
yes, because the whole thing about Jameis doing that is he's so embarrassed that this 15-year-old knocked him down. He's this great Fremen
Right.
warrior, and yeah, everyone in the comments is going that. Yeah, you nailed it. Good job. You were paying attention during the movie, Evan.
Yes. I know stuff now.
What did you think about? So Jessica then does her weirding thing, which you don't see a lot of. She like
Mhm.
does a flip around him.
Yeah,
Kind
she
of
just-
reminds me of like Black Widow-ish fighting.
Right. Yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh, you are a weirding woman. Why don't you tell me?"
Dude, your Stilgar voice is even worse now with the movie.
You are a weird woman.
You sound like Borat.
Oh, okay. You take over from here. Go ahead. What do you got?
I mean, you already did it. You said the line, so
You're right. I did.
he does. He does do a really cool peace, woman, peace. You know.
Why did you
that
not
was straight from
say?
the book?
Why do you not say you were a weirding woman? She goes, our conversation ran short.
Yeah.
It's not like she's going to announce herself a weirding woman. That's rude. You don't just say that. You just
You're gonna
go
kill
with
me,
the
bro.
flow. But then we get a shot of, we hear Chani like, I would not have let you kill my friends. And you're like, oh, that's the voice we've been hearing in his dreams. And he turns and she's all masked up and everything. She takes it all off. And I love the stare she gives him. She's like, you are puny.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's like, is the girl from my dreams.
I saw a lot of people comment on this, but I also didn't love the fact that she just had a standard vanilla American accent. You know, I wouldn't have let you kill my friends. You came up the hardest way, dude. You know, like it was very like straightforward American accent. I was like, put a little something on it, you know? But
That was what, yeah. Maybe something.
and she
I
can
do-
do it. She's really
Yes.
good.
She's extremely talented.
Right.
She's extremely talented for what she does. And I know a lot of Zendaya stands were like pissed she wasn't in the movie more, but I was like, you get a lot in part 2. And
Right.
part 2's now coming, so she's going to be heavily featured there. But I like how
I
she's
know.
like, they say you're the Mahdi, but you look like a little boy. He's just staring at her like, oh, snap. How do I not mess this up?
You're pretty.
So he like follows her down in that point, and she like looks at him again like, you're such a weirdo. Okay, cool. Moving on. Which I just love the teenageness of that. And then Jameis gets angry and says like, the strongest lead. So in the Fremen culture, for those of you who have not gone on this journey with us in Red Dune, the Fremen culture is that they fight by combat to the death, where the strongest person always leads the tribe. So the strongest person in the whole tribe would lead the Sietch, and you go all the way down. And so because Stilgar just got beat by Jessica, technically Jessica would be the strongest one, but she's an Outworlder. So it's this weird, like, Stilgar's out of place a little bit.
Tension.
So James is like, well, I'm pissed. I'll take it. The strongest lead. And the people need to
She
be
just
tested.
beat you. Yeah.
So ergo, I need to fight her, and I'm gonna be naive. I'm gonna be the leader of the Sietch now.
Right. But Stilgar then says,
You cannot challenge a Sayadina.
and that's the only hint at what Jessica could mean to the Fremen that happens in this movie. They say,
You cannot challenge a Sayadina.
Yes, she's already been promoted to priestess in
Yeah.
one fight.
right.
And so then Jameis invokes the rule of Amtal rule, which is, I think it's we don't explain this, but it's the testing to the limits,
Mhm.
which if we do all the way back on Caladan, the Reverend Mother was like, he must be tested to the limits. So here it is again. They're like, all right, we're going to test him to the desert limits.
Mhm.
So you can't challenge a Sayadina. Jameis, please don't do this. So Paul was like, okay, I'll fight him.
Right.
Because no one else I got to
Well,
do
that's what
something
Jameis wanted, really.
the whole time. Yeah.
Because he was like, okay, great. I can't challenge a Sayadina. Who's going to be her champion? They look around. Obviously, none of the Fremen are going to fight
Right.
Jameis for this random lady, because he was embarrassed that Paul like pushed him down or whatever before. So he wanted to fight Paul, and that's the way that he got to fight Paul.
Yes.
But
So-
it's kind of a dumb move, my guy.
We see, so now Paul is preparing. You see a shot of the ducal signet ring still on his finger, and he's about to do this thing, and he starts tripping out again. It's this Nexus event around where he sees his death over and over again. Some of those visions are yellow, some of them are not yellow. They go back and forth about so what's actually going to happen.
Right.
Which I think that's a good payoff, right? But the whole thing, the voices in his head are calling the Kwisatz Haderach to rise up, and the only way to do that is to die. And he's like, what? And then the voices
All
help him
those
out
voices.
again. The voices help him out one more time by saying, in order to, by taking a life, you take your own life. And I was like, all right, so this is how he's going to die. Like, don't resist. It's going to be okay. While he's getting visions of him dying on the floor.
Okay. Several voices in my head.
Yeah, what do you know? Several voices. Several old grandma witch voices. What are
Right.
you
But
doing?
it's also like the classic hero's journey, death and rebirth moment. You had to
And yeah.
see. You had to see, like the Pro 24 in the comments just said Paul Atreides needed to die for the Kwisatz Haderach to rise. That's what they say, I think, in the movie too. It's the Neo moment. Neo has to die so that the one can
Come forward.
show up. Yeah.
David in our YouTube comments says that Paul was waiting there trying to find the mood, the mood for fighting. Which
What
again, it's
mood to do with this?
it's perfect when he's gonna
Yeah.
get that because he's gonna have to kill him.
Right.
And then, so he's in his vision, and then he hears the woman of his dreams say, like, I don't believe you're the Lisan El Gaib, and pops him out of it. But he says, but I like you. Like, I want you to die with honor. So here's the tooth from that was given to me, the tooth of Shai Hulud, given to me by my great aunt. Evan, who do you think the great aunt is? And you can say any spoilery things at this point. If you do you have an idea of who that might be?
Oh, yes. Yes, I do. I don't know if we can talk about that. We shouldn't talk
Okay,
about that.
no, we shouldn't talk about that. You're right. I'm sorry. I
But
just
yes, I know who it is.
okay, cool. It's an obvious person in the next movie who's female.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
For sure.
It could
And
be
she's like Chani's like, it'll be honorable for you to die using
holding
this.
this.
And he's like, I'm like really good at this stuff and you don't know that. But I want to impress you. And so I'm having a hard time figuring out what to say to you right now. Like you see all of that happen like in his eyes,
And I love that. Like that moment right there, he was like, she's about to walk away, and he's like, Chani, and she's like, yes. And he's like, and she's like, waiting.
Yeah.
He's like, never mind.
Right.
He just
Because
looks at him like,
what he wanted to say is, Johnny, I love you. I have always loved you. I will always love you. You are my beautiful ray of sunshine. And like he wanted to just confess his love. And then he was like, wait, she doesn't know me. I know her. She doesn't know me. Then he goes, never mind. That was almost a bad move.
yes, he's yeah. Like, oh, by the way, I've been having dreams about you for a very long time where we make out. Sometimes you stab me, but mostly wearing a really cool dress. Like,
Right.
you can't say that to somebody. You just got to let it go.
Johnny, can we make out? No. Okay. Sorry. Never mind.
At least he asked for consent. It's
Yeah.
the best part.
Good guy, Paul.
Hey guys, Paul really is the good guy. Okay. So basically, she says that Jameis is a great fighter. He won't let you suffer.
Right.
Because the whole point as they get into the fight is that this world will kill you. And he says, like, you should welcome my blade. This is not going to be easy living here. It'll be easier dying right now.
Right.
And so the fight happens. And so, which is weird because I wish we would have got more of this because there's no shield. I wish he would have been like, or Jessica would have said under her breath or something like, oh my gosh, he's only been trained with shields or something like that. Like
right.
this has no shield. Like that's why his
Well,
actions are slower.
The shields were so obvious in the other battle scenes that I
Okay.
think people felt the tension of him not fighting with a shield. It'd be like if you watched a whole movie and people are climbing with ropes, suddenly somebody's free soloing at the end of the movie. It's like, oh, the stakes are higher, you know? But
Yeah, I could see that. That's good. Good job.
yeah. But
We
they
pulled all
also
together.
they were outside. They weren't in loincloths like in the book. I was like, why did they have to change that? That wasn't necessary, but
Yeah,
okay.
everyone wants to see Timothy Chalamet in a loincloth. Straight or whatever. We all want to see it. So
Right.
let's just see it.
Right.
That'd be great. All right. So they fight and Paul says, "Will you yield?" Right? And everyone goes, "Ooh."
Ooh, I liked the vibe of the Fremen. Like
Yeah.
there was the one like black Fremen. That was like,
Yeah.
it was like gave like I had flashbacks to like the Hood. And dudes being like, "Oh no,
Or
he
like-
did it!
like-
No, he did it!"
I remember like high school fights when everyone gathers around and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, no, he did not.
Yeah,
That's exactly it. And I want to see more of that actor. Somebody, somewhere. That guy needs to be Korba or somebody in the future. I want
He
to see
needs to
more of
matter.
him.
he was cool.
He needs to matter. I agree. So he doesn't know the rule. There is no yielding. In the Amtal rule, you have to die. And then Stilgar is like he does a couple more times. Stilgar looks back at Jessica like,
Right.
is he toying with him? Like he should have
Yeah.
killed him like 4 moves ago.
Dude, Jameis's face too when he says, "Do you yield?" He was
Mhm.
like mortified. That was
How
like
dare
the
you?
most offensive thing that you could do. And then yeah, he does it like once or twice more. He like stops short. Yeah, and then Jessica explains like he's never taken a life, and Stilgar's like, "Oh shoot, that sucks." You know, you can see it in his
really
eyes.
unfortunate for him.
Right. But by
Yes,
the
he's
end
gonna
of
have
the
to.
by the end of the fight, Jameis is like screaming, right? He's like, ah!
He knows it's
ah!"
over. Yeah.
He's basically saying, like, I am so humiliated that every second that you don't kill me just like exponentially increases my humiliation. So he's like screaming, like he's just screaming, but he's saying, like, kill me, kill me, kill me. You need to kill me. Like, please kill me. This is the worst thing that could possibly happen to me. You've completely humiliated me. And then it happens.
And I like how this scene has no music either. Like there's music throughout like a lot of the movie, but this scene's completely silent. Like
Yeah.
everything music doesn't need. The silence is almost more deafening.
Oh, it's definitely increases the tension. Like people, that's why, that's like a thing that people do in movies. They cut the music out to like increase the tension because we're so used to hearing the music.
Over and over again. And then you
Right.
hear the voices rising in Paul's head. Like, Wizards Hatterack! Like, come on, man, do the thing. And so the fight ends the same way the book pretty much happens, right? Jameis switches knife hands, goes at him. Paul sees it, but this time Paul like stabs him in the back as he goes past him because Paul flips the knife around like he did in the Gurney fight.
Mhm. Yeah.
And just pops him right in the back. Game over. And I love this moment because he's falling to the ground and Paul comes to him and like holds his hand and looks him eye to eye as he takes his like last breath.
Yeah.
Like this is not what I wanted. I am here with you. And this is the person from his vision. The voices kept saying, follow this guy. This guy will
Yeah.
teach you the ways of the desert. And it's like another rule of the desert is you have to go all the way. Like you have to kill the people. The world will kill you. This is how it works.
Yep.
So then you see the people take Jameis's body away. And then as Paul walks through, all the hands go on him, which is kind of like our scene in the chapter 34 or whatever. It's like where Paul cries and they're like, oh, he sheds water for the dead. That's kind of like this scene. Everybody's touching him.
That was
And
a
you-
spoiler.
Is it?
If you made it 2.5 hours into this video,
I'm allowed one. I'm allowed one. No, I'm not. I'm sorry. Almtal rule. Test it to the limit. All right. So you look up, and this is probably my favorite shot in the movie of Paul. He just looks distraught.
oh
Like-
yeah, he is. Like, that would suck. That moment of killing your first human person. Like, that's awful.
That close in that way. He's not the same person anymore. And then where Stilgar says, "You are one of us now, a life for a life." So now he's fully integrated into the Fremen.
Right.
And Jessica freaks out at this. Like, no, Paul's got to go off world. Paul needs a nice life. He needs a nice wife. We need to, his bloodline is too important to keep him on the world. And then Paul's like, no, sorry, that's not what happened. The Emperor sent us here to this place. My father came not for spice, but for the strength of your people. My road leads into the desert. Bum, 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 bum.
Which is like a perfect mixture of the Atreides sincerity and this new thing that's happening to Paul
Yes. Yes.
together.
Barbara says in the comments that this is his Vader moment. This is him
Ooh.
rising up in this new way. He's not the same person
Sure.
anymore. And he says he can see his path into the desert. Like,
Yeah.
it's much clearer than it was when they were on Caladan. He can start to pick out his visions of what's happening when. So they're walking. You see they're taking Jameis to the still, and he's all done. And then you look out and you see someone riding the worm, which I think is so cool.
Yeah, it was cool that they showed it.
Like, that is like, and they look, and then Paul says, like, oh, there's the desert power. This is the apex predator on the entire planet. This is what makes everything go. This is desert power, and these people ride it like it's a train.
Right.
Like, what is happening?
It would have been really just the most badass thing. It would have ruined the movie, but the most badass thing would be if just Thunderstruck by AC/DC started playing in the background.
Why don't we do this movie? We can do this movie. You and me, Evan. We
Yeah.
got it.
That
It'll
would
be
be
a-
so great.
Dune the
Thunder.
musical. Yeah, we got to do a musical version of Dune the musical by Caleb and Evan. So Chani then turns around. This is the end of the movie,
That's the end. We got it. We
and
made
she says, "This is only the beginning."
it.
which- Kind of is. And Paul kind of looks, and something happens here. Something's already happened. He's just fully embracing what he's gonna do.
Right. He's like, this is badass. This is cool. We're all right. You know, he's stoked, but also you feel that terrible purpose.
Which we didn't get a lot of in the movie, is that terrible purpose and that being
Yeah.
talked about, because that's totally in his head, but you can feel it start to rise.
Yep.
Which is so pretty. And then he's also looking at Chani in this, and then Jessica looks at him, looks at Chani, and her face changes. There's a visible change at the end where Jessica's also not the same person from when we started this journey.
Yeah.
There's something else is going to have to happen, and she'll have to go through some things as well in order to keep Paul safe and to keep the Bene Gesserit's plan safe.
Yep.
And then you see them walking off into the desert, and the music crescendos, and I was like, and black.
Right.
And
And that was
Dune
it.
That was it.
And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I pulled out my phone. Does Dune have a post-credit scene? And then it said no. And I
No.
was like, that's sad.
I sat there in the theater for a good probably 15 minutes was the
Right.
credits rolled, like not just everyone's like, Caleb, did you love it? And I was like, I don't
Don't
have
talk to me.
words.
Don't
Yeah,
talk to me.
I don't know what I just witnessed. I need to go home, pull up HBO Max and watch it immediately because oh my gosh.
Right. Oh man. You
So-
know what would have been cool? A post-credit scene of like Thufir Hawat being brought before the bear. the Baron. You know,
Ooh.
like showing what happened with Gurney, what happened with Thufir, what happened with, you know, something like that could have been cool. But I get it. They're not Marvel. They're not going for Marvel style here. They're going for Oscars. They're going for, can we tie Lord of the Rings in Oscars? Like that's basically where they seem to be
Oh,
aiming this thing.
They're 100% going for Oscars. They're going
Yeah.
for awards. And I think this really does define, like, in a science fiction world, this is huge. I think they did a great job.
That's what I said in my reaction videos. Like, this is a game changer. This has set the bar for science fiction. Like, this is a whole new
Yes.
level, you know?
Do you think, last question before we end this, we're almost at 3 hours, which is much like 2 hours longer than I wanted to go, but here we are. Do you think this was a solid independent story back to front? Because it's important that it needs to be. It needs to be a solo film, just like Fellowship was a solo film. It wasn't the end, but you did have a whole character arc, go through it all. What do you think, Evan, on like how does that all work?
It definitely leaves you wanting more. Definitely, like, you want to know what's going to happen next. So I don't know if it was a standalone, it would just be kind of a sad standalone. You know what I mean?
Right.
Kind of like there have been movies that like came out and like there's this cliffhanger at the end and you're like, oh, I can't wait for part 2, but it didn't do well enough to get a part 2.
Oof.
You know, like if that had happened with this, it would have just been filed under that category, which would be really sad because this movie was incredible, you know? So, but we don't have to worry about that. We're going to get a part 2. So
We are going to get a part 2, and I'm so pumped about this. And rumor may be a part 3, and I think that would be so beautiful because they would do Dune Messiah, and Dune Messiah is incredible and much shorter than the Dune, so they could fit it all in one movie.
right.
Speaking of Dune Messiah, Evan, are you ready?
I think so.
Are you prepared for what's about to happen?
I have no idea what's about to happen.
All right, so we're gonna at the end of this live stream. If you watch this all with us or listen to on the podcast, we are 100% doing Dune Messiah.
Yep.
Evan is hooked.
There's the official announcement.
There's the
You're
official
welcome.
announcement. It will be happening very soon. I'm preparing now for it so I don't miss anything. And all of you are coming on the journey with us. So make sure. Oh, Evan, this is where you plug the thing. Plug
Yeah.
the thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're doing Messiah. We're excited. I'm excited about Messiah. I have even less context, I feel like, for this book than I did for the first book. It's fine. I'm going to be okay. But we're also like starting to do some cool stuff. So, like, between now and when we start Messiah, there are some things that we're working on that I'm excited about. First of all, the first one being Patreon. We just launched our Patreon today. It's just patreon.com/readingdune. And there's some cool perks that you can get on there. You go check it out. And if you're in the Discord, if you're part of our Discord, which we can put a link in the show notes and in the YouTube description. We want to know, like, what do you want from Patreon? What do you want us to do? What do you think would be cool? So send us your comments and all the things, and Yeah, that's happening, and we're back. We're trying to do stuff more often now, so keep an eye on the Discord, keep an eye on Twitter, keep an eye on the YouTube, and it's gonna be fun. We're gonna do cool stuff.
So yes, also if you have not actually read Dune and you've gotten this far, just go. You want to be honest, you want to know what's going to happen next. I want to know what's going to happen next. Go get the book, follow us reading Dune, and we'll go chapter by chapter with you as your guide as you experience Evan learning about Dune for the first time, and that is equally hilarious as it is fun to watch.
Oh yeah, baby, worm poop. Let's go.
Let's
Hashtag
go.
worm poop.
So yes, that is. Somebody just wants more of Evan on doing the Thopter on Patreon.
You got
So
it, buddy.
We'll make posters of just that so you can buy there, do the thing. All right. Oh, and Mapes impressions. Yeah, I will. We'll do cameos of Mapes impressions for $5 each. Oh, I got it. No problem. All right. I just want to say thank you so much for being with us on this journey.
Yeah,
Make sure you
yeah.
follow us Twitter, Reading Dude, email us, readingdude@gmail.com.
Yeah.
And as always, please, my friends, stay spicy.
Peace.
Peace. Bum, 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 bum.